Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and I'm one of your hosts, but I'm only one, not the second one, which happens to be...
Let's face it, you're number two, I'm number one. This is Joe. How's it going, people? Jimmy, how you doing?
Oh my gosh, just cutting me off. Oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. Anyway, now you've thrown me completely off. That's all right, I can roll with the punches. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I figured we'd try to do this a little bit differently here today, Joe, and just let people know, first off, what we are going to kind of get into eventually. But we're here to talk about movies, video games, TV shows, and things that we love. The most important things, the bare necessities, the essentials, if you will. But before that, I always like to give Joe a hard time, and I like to get his brain working. So, Joe,
what's the question? Come on.
Today we're gonna continue with our animal facts, and we're gonna have Joe guess what animal I'm talking about. I'm going to give him a few facts, give him a few seconds.
Platypus!
It's not a platypus. So this week, Joe, this animal ranges from about 200 to 300 pounds. It's a carnivore, and its bite is venomous and known to cause shock and a decrease in blood clotting in its prey. What animal is it? I want to get the Jeopardy music.
Bite. So it's not venomous. It's something to do with saliva, full of bacteria and whatnot, or something. Any hints?
I think you're toying with me. I think you know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you like the hint that will just like basically hand it to you? I don't know. That seems like it's too easy.
No, don't obliterate it. Make it hard.
Okay. Man,
comment below if you guys got this before I did.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Komodo dragon.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
I'm thinking, for some reason I wasn't thinking reptile.
Yeah, well, you know what's weird about this, Joe, is I was reading about this, and apparently we used to think that it was just like the bacteria in its mouth that caused this, but apparently it does have a venom whose toxins do that, but that it also has some bacteria in there too. Apparently there's like 50 different bacterial strains we've found, and 7 of them are highly septic. So basically what it does, Joe, is if it doesn't put you into shock and you get away from it, you'll probably still die in like a week. Like you'll still
and it'll smell you out and find you anyway.
Yeah. Komodo dragons, man, do not mess with a Komodo dragon. Very cool animal.
I can take them.
But anyway, what was that?
I said I could take them.
Yeah, sure you could. Anyway, so on this week, we have a lot going on. Because we didn't get to talk about Suicide Squad, we are going to get to that, because Joe and I have a lot of thoughts that we want to share with you on that movie now that we've both seen it. But before that, we're going to get to talk about the new Star Wars Rogue One trailer. And then after Suicide Squad, we're going to talk about Titanfall 2, because we're really jazzed about that. There was some new preview footage that came out about the multiplayer and the single player and all that stuff. So let's just get right to it. Joe, Star Wars Rogue One. We were talking a little bit before the show, and you sounded like you were kind of checked out of Star Wars. So tell me, what's going on, Joe? What is it?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't ask me to expand on it too much. I just, I saw, what was the last one I saw? See, it just didn't, it didn't hype me up enough to really care about it one way or another.
Okay.
I mean, alright, Darth Vader's cool, whatever. Cool jets flying around shooting each other. But in the end, that's all it really is to me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I guess some of it's a little hokey. And
sure.
I can't remember the title of the last one. Can you tell me what it is?
Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Yes, okay, so... It was okay. It was cool, the lightsabers with the technology. They're making these movies pretty good. It's neat, they're fighting each other, chopping down trees and along with it and whatever. I guess I just I don't there's just something about it that just doesn't do it for me.
Okay. this is good because I think what a lot of people and a lot of the listeners might say is like, wow, like how can this guy not like Star Wars as much as I do? Because everybody, it seems to be kind of like a global phenomenon, like kind of wherever you go. Even if you're not really into Star Wars, you know about it and you can appreciate it. But it's good to have someone who didn't really love the franchise here because it's a juxtaposition to like my point of view of Star Wars, loving it my entire life. And but for seeing this trailer, Joe, you know, again, you're not a huge Star Wars fan. Is there anything besides like just seeing the back of Vader's helmet? Is there anything in here that makes you interested? Is there any one character or any set piece where you're like, man, I would actually kind of like to see that or whatever?
Well, I will give them credit for the fact that they use a lot of real props.
Yes, for sure.
Not as much CGI in these films as others nowadays, which I give them props for that, and I enjoy it. I will say, what's with the stormtroopers, man? Why do they wear plastic outfits?
That is an excellent question.
Supposed to stop bullets or something? Is that some sort of special plastic?
That's an excellent question. I've always wondered that too, because you think like, oh, if I wore this armor or whatever, the helmets and all this stuff, it would protect me from blaster bolts. But in the movies, time and time again, we've seen them get shot like in the chest and they still just go down. And you're like, oh, why would I wear any of that if it's just like wearing regular clothes?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What's the point of the cluttery bullcrap?
Exactly. We do get to see in this trailer though, like the elite, they're like the death troopers or they're like all black and stuff. I don't know if you kind of caught those guys.
When they run after people and they shoot, they don't miss by a mile.
Yeah, exactly.
100 million times or what?
Yep. They are very accurate. They don't always hit, but it's much closer. It's not as wild of a shot. It's a little bit more like right over your shoulder as opposed to like hitting like the ceiling above you. That's these guys are that good, you know.
Those phasers must have major recoil or something, huh?
Oh yeah, their blasters definitely do. Not to confuse, some people be like, phasers, that's Star Trek. Which Star Trek, I don't. Their guns can be from kill to stun and do all this stuff. Blasters are blasters, usually. Except
you're either blasted or you're not. All right.
I have seen in a few shows like the CGI, like the Rebels or like Star Wars, the Clone Wars, that you can flip it to like it shoots. Some of them will shoot out like a blue circle and it will just like stun you. So I guess they do have a stun, but they don't. I don't know why stormtroopers don't use that, because if you stun someone and then you shot them, I don't know. Maybe there's a range on that thing. So they'd be like, I can't miss it this close, right? And they probably still kill themselves.
As they're slipping on their own footprints and
yeah, exactly. But so, Joe, you know, we talked about this one a while ago, too, and watching this trailer, there's a lot of cool stuff in it for me, but that's because I kind of know what this story's about. Like, watching this particular trailer that came out, it's still kind of like you wouldn't, if you didn't know the backstory as well, like, you might not, you might still be like, what are they doing?
Yeah, there's a Death Star going around the universe killing people, yada yada. They gotta get the plans, and they
okay. So it seems like
give it to the guy who goes back in time and kills or blows a Death Star up in the 70s.
I was like, whoa, wait! It's like you're getting like Back to the Future on me here. I was like, oh no. Okay, but you get the gist of it. I think I explained it to you last time. But so in this trailer, you still think it's kind of. Is it still easy to tell that this is supposed to be before episode 4? You know, if you just saw episode 7 like you did and forgot the name of it, would you think that this was like episode 8 basically, or would you think that this is a prequel?
I have no freaking clue, Jimmy.
Okay. Joe's like, I'm completely confused.
I have no clue. All I know is the Death Star's around and Darth Vader's around, so yeah, it's somewhere in the middle, right?
Sure. I think one thing that's really cool about this movie, Joe, is that Gareth Edwards, the director of Godzilla and some other stuff, but primarily that movie, the one we saw, remember, at IMAX, he's really good with showing off the size of some of these, like, you know, the Death Star and the Star Destroyers, those big triangular ships, which I really like that shadow that kind of passes over, and then you see them come out, and you're like, wow, like this, we've never seen these ships, like, to scale a little bit more in the theater. And I think that's what's going to be really cool about this movie, is we haven't really gotten to, like, be like, oh, I've seen the Death Star, but it's always been, you know, like, I'm just showing you with, like, my hand right here. It's just like, it's not that big, but now it's going to feel, like, massive.
Yeah,
like
because back in the 70s, they, used Lego models as...
Yep, that's Lego models. They got a great endorsement deal. They couldn't pass it up. Wasn't exactly spherical, but they got there. This is 70s Legos. They've advanced. But to be honest with you, Joe, I'm more excited about this movie than I was for Force Awakens, because seeing Star Wars come back, I was really excited about that. But after the movie, but beforehand too, I was kind of like, this story seems kind of like a story I've seen before. It's not really doing anything really different, but this movie definitely is, because we have a team of individuals that we haven't really ever met before, and all of them could potentially die. That's the kind of fun thing about this movie, is that nobody's really super safe, and that's what I like about it a lot.
That's cool, yeah. And I mean, I'll probably see it. I mean, they're good movies. I'm not. Yeah. It's not like I dislike Star Wars. It's just, it's not like it doesn't resonate in me and give me that wow factor. Like when I walk out of the theater, I'm just like, oh man, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Whereas opposed to something like a Lord of the Rings or or some of these superhero movies, they kind of hit me a little harder, and I don't know. They amp me up a little more. I don't know what it is about these, but I just, Star Trek's the same way. Maybe it's something to do with space travel and stuff. I don't know.
Maybe you don't like the sci-fi stuff. Well, I guess Star Trek's a little more sci-fi. Star Wars is technically a space opera, because they don't try to define anything with science. They're just like, you can just go light speed. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, an adventure.
Yeah. Which I kind of like that a little bit more, because I don't like getting bogged down with like the science behind it, because I'm like, this is still like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the last one this past year, but it's forgettable to me, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
Everybody can hate me all you want. I'm not
gonna hate you.
I'm not into it as much. I'm sorry. Anyway, continue on, my friend.
Anyway, that's totally fine. I will say this though: if I don't, I'm gonna be just like not a hissy fit, and this is a very privileged fan talking right here. Seeing Darth Vader, I just hope, I hope against hope that he does something. I know it sounds stupid to say. I just hope they don't show him just kind of walking around like the Death Star or somewhere else, just kind of like hanging out. I want to see Darth Vader freaking bring some people down. I want to see him murder some people. Even if it's some of the main characters, I want to see him cut them down. Like, that's all I want, in a big hangar, like Darth Maul style, but just ripping the rafters down with the Force.
Force choke somebody? Yeah, I'm all about it.
Like 10 people? I don't care, man. Just show Vader do something. Also, Joe, I looked this up, but the main bad guy kind of in this movie, the guy in all white, whose name I looked up but subsequently forgot. His name, I think it's Ben Mendelsohn, but he played Danny Rayburn on Bloodline.
No.
Yeah, I looked at him, I was like, I've seen that face before. And I was like, oh, I was like, dude, get after it, because he's been big in Australia for a long time, but he's been playing a lot of villains on TV shows and stuff, and I was like, dude, what a big break. I'm like, I would never have thought freaking Danny Rayburn from Bloodline from Netflix is going to be the main bad guy in Star Wars.
He's a good actor in Bloodline. Yeah. He was a perfect bad guy.
Oh, man. I was like, how are they going to do season 2? Spoilers. But yeah, so I'm excited to see him, because that might be a kind of a cool villain, because he's like we've seen him in the trailer get on the ground and stuff too, which we don't get a lot with a lot of these kind of generals and stuff. He was like, walking through the water, like, I'm gonna go and check out the battlefield for myself, which I'm all about. But I think this will be kind of cool, Joe. If you like, this will be a lot more about the war, I think, which maybe you could get behind, because like if you like war movies and stuff, it seems like this movie is going to focus more on the battles and stuff, and it kind of shows them dealing with the Empire and kind of doing stuff that we don't normally see in the other Star Wars films, where those kind of usually kind of distill down to typically like a space battle with like a lightsaber fight. It's not like always these big kind of like, multiple gigantic machines carrying tons of people trying to blow each other up on the ground, which I'm more excited about, because I like space battles, but they can get a little hectic, I think, where you just kind of like, you could get attacked from any angle at any second. So I always think like, how do people not get blown up constantly? But yeah, I'm excited to see that. That'll be good. So you're still kind of lukewarm. Are you any more excited for this movie than you were for Force Awakens?
No.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, I think it's going to be good. I'm hopeful. I think Disney's been doing a good job, and I'm excited.
All right, I lied. I am more excited for it, mainly because you got some of the old with the new.
Sure, exactly. I think that's the biggest point, Joe, that you're coming off with there, is that you take all that old timeline and give it a new age treatment, which is a cool thing, because the old Star Wars movies, if you go back and watch them, which I'm going to force you to do sometime, they don't feel huge, for the time they did, but now it's just kind of like the Battle of Hoth is like a couple of AT-ATs with like 40 rebel soldiers. I want to see like 1,000 rebel soldiers and like 20, 30, 40 AT-ATs. Like, this is insane. So, because it needs to be Star Wars,
Yeah.
Wars, baby.
Oh crap. Oh, I saw some flashback video where they showed like one of the fights between Darth Vader and somebody, and like the effects. And for the time, I'm sure this is a great movie, but the effects were like they had sticks in their hands and they were clack, 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 and then they're like, I don't know how, but they turned it into a lightsaber on screen, whatever. It was like, wow.
Yeah, no, I think one thing that I heard too about that is that maybe, a kind of fun tie-in would be like if Vader got hurt in this film and then going into episode 4, it would just show off why Vader is really, really like kind of, I don't know, what would you call rigid in that fight, because he's just kind of like, like in Darth Vader in the other movies, he's a pretty good duelist. He's not like, it'd be great if he's like, I hurt myself. There were some rebels I was trying to take care of earlier, and they, they kind of messed me up a bit. I killed all of them, but they hurt me a little bit. So, I mean, the guy had all his arms and legs removed, so I probably wouldn't be the best duelist for a bit. Be a little while. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for Star Wars for now. I'm excited to see where it goes. To be honest, though, I don't need to see any more trailers or anything. I think we've seen enough. Don't go any further with it. Just as is, that would be good. But they'll probably, try to throw out another trailer or two.
No,
Joe,
they'll show Darth Vader. They'll have him take his mask off and all that.
Yeah, he just walks out there and he takes his mask off and he's like, I'm
come to the theater on December 20th.
That's the trailer. Oh, just like Anakin Skywalker all messed up, and that'd be great, Joe. Perfect. We'd be a great marketing team for
Lucas. Who's Forrest Whitaker playing?
He is playing an extremist rebel character who was actually from the old Star Wars, the Clone Wars show. It was kind of cool. They when they were developing this character for him, they're like, all right, we need a character kind of fits this role. Is there anybody like that we've had before? And they're like, oh, actually, yeah, in this TV show we did have that character, so it's just an older version of that character from the Clone Wars, which is kind of cool.
Needs a suit to survive like Darth Vader does.
Yeah, to some extent it seems that way. I don't know if they'll get into that, if they'll talk more about like what it does for him, but he doesn't have the helmet on, which is good, because he'd be like, why get Forrest Whitaker if you just kind of put a helmet on the guy?
Yeah, no kidding. Think about it, though. Think about how gross it is underneath that suit. He
pretty
can
bad.
Never take it off. He's
maybe it's air conditioned
in his own filth and excrement.
Oh no, he's got to be. That's vacuumed out.
That's vacuumed out. He's got a hose up his butt that just.
What that? Why would it be? No, yeah, gosh, no, gosh. This is what Joe's thinking about.
Sorry, I took it too far.
God,
and probably air conditioned. I mean, I'd have that built in.
It's got fans.
He turns around. He's got this cape that covers up this giant box, which is an AC unit, like an old window unit that's bolted to his back.
I like to think it's like a computer or video console that, like, every once in a while, like, it's like there's like this moment of tension, and then you just hear like this, like the startup noise is like. He's just like, don't look at me. It's just the fan kicking in. He's like, it gets really hot in here. I'm wearing a black outfit always.
Shut up, Darth Vader. That's your poop vacuum.
Gosh. No wonder.
All of a sudden you hear his breathing escalate.
Yep, this is a good Star Wars. This is what we're breaking down Star Wars. Take this Star Wars. And I was thinking about that black outfit, Joe. I guess I probably would never have gone back to Tatooine either, like a desert planet to look for my kid, because I'd be like, I'm wearing all black. I'm not going out to a desert planet. You got to be kidding me. I'd be like,
the sun would burn me alive. I would probably burst into flames.
It would have been great if they would have got in like a fear of lava for Darth Vader. Like, not that he goes to lava planets a lot, but that's, you know, how he got even more messed up. And if you're like, hey, Vader, I heard there's some lava on that place. Like, oh, no. It's like, keep that away from me.
Change course immediately.
Yeah. Veer away from it. Anyway, oh, that's so good. Let's get into Suicide Squad, though, Joe.
What's
you
that?
saw it this past weekend. I saw it, you know, about a week and a half ago or whatnot.
Opening night, right?
And, yeah, I saw it Thursday. Yeah, this Thursday night that it came out. So, for anyone who doesn't know my thoughts on it, I'll kind of get into it more. But I do have a spoiler-free review that'll probably be popping up somewhere on the screen right now. So check it out if you want to pause this and go watch that or whatever. But we're probably going to get spoiler-heavy on this. So if you haven't seen Suicide Squad yet, hold off and then come back to this. Because it'll probably ruin some stuff. But, Joe, I want you to tell me kind of like, you know, you can give me a little synopsis if you want to of the movie. But I want your thoughts, you know, about it as a whole. And then we can kind of get into each character and go from there.
All right, straight off the bat, I give it a strong 8.5, maybe an 8.
All right.
Okay, so weak 8.5, strong 8.
So an 8.25.
Yeah, that makes more sense, right? Yeah, we'll meet in the middle at an 8.25.
This is Joe's score, not mine.
Nah, let's just hold it at an 8 because let's be honest, it was not perfect.
It starts at an 8.5 and he's already dropped it.
Well, because I realized when I did the math that only leaves 1.5 points to get to a perfect score. That ain't right.
That's Lord of the Rings territory.
That's Lord of the Rings territory, and this isn't near that. So
no.
Whatever. I'll give it a good 8. But I liked a lot of it.
Okay.
Had a real nice modern flair to it.
Sure.
And when I say modern flair, why are you laughing so much?
I'm dying over here because when you said modern flair, I thought of some of the music they used and how
I was just gonna say the music they used. I liked it. I liked that when, you know, the Joker and Harley Quinn are like screaming away in their purple Lamborghini away from the club that they were at where he shot the guy. You know, it's bumping like really loud rap music. I was totally fine with it, and it kind of had and it was Rick Ross and Skrillex, right? So it had that little bit of a mix to it. So it was kind of intense and kind of like almost badass feeling. Sure. And, you know, then all of a sudden Batman's in pursuit, and, you know, they get into it and, you know, whatever. So I thought that was cool. A lot less from the Joker than I expected, but I'm happy with that. I feel like just giving us a taste of him is better than showing him off throughout the whole movie when it's not all about him.
Sure.
And I like that it's him trying to get Harley Quinn back. Mm-hmm. That's legit. Then, what else? There were some things that were kind of like off. Like, first off, why is it that when Harley Quinn has that flashback on the staircase, she falls into the vat of chemicals and okay, she's in there. Joker like goes in after her, does a swan dive in there, grabs her, pulls her up. Their clothes are melting off like it's an acid bath. Her hair is bleached, but their clothes are melting off. Their eyes are fine. They can see. They're freaking Frenching each other, drool and all, but they're fine. But their clothes are melting off. Next question: when you swan dive from a platform 40 feet up into a vat of chemicals, you grab your girl and then you're standing in the vat of chemicals holding her. How are you standing in that? Is it only 4 feet deep? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it looked deeper than that. I will say this too. I promise I will not be able to answer all these questions for you. I will not defend it. You're totally right. It made no sense. I don't know what they're doing.
No, hold on. Maybe there was a platform in the vat. You know, there's the deep, the deep end, and then there was like the center point that was like stand-onable.
Because when you make a big vat of chemicals, you think, well, if somebody falls in here, we better have some sort of like,
Shallow
device that
end.
pushes them. Yeah.
So
No.
Joker knew he couldn't see it, but he's like, I bet you that end's a deep end. So he dove in the deep end.
He's been in there before, or some.
All
one
right,
of the
so that
vats.
one bugged me, but that was just something I picked out that I didn't like. Sometimes there's some hokey lines.
Yeah.
Like, I loved El Diablo. I thought that was a cool character, and in the end, I did not expect, spoiler, turns into that big El Diablo fire monster, right?
Yeah.
Then he's like, oh, it's on, bitch. I was like,
Yeah.
well, you just ruined that moment for me. Thanks.
Yep. Another moment.
Although it is something his character would say, but when he turns into the big fire
Yeah.
monster, let's just do away with speaking.
It's like when Enchantress says, you don't have the balls to crush that heart. I was
True.
like, no.
Yeah,
No.
you're an ancient being, and you're saying you don't have the balls, bruh. Come
Yeah.
on, come at me. I mean, she could have gone on with it, and it would have been just as bad.
Yeah.
So certain one-liners like that, no. Maybe for a 13 or 14-year-old, but for the fans of DC that are a little older, maybe our age in their 20s, that stuff is kind of passe.
Sure.
And so that kind of stuff bugged me a little bit. I know some people complained about the Joker and that he laughed at odd times and too much. Well, guess what? He's the frickin' Joker. He's gonna laugh at the oddest times ever.
Yeah, that's true.
I was totally fine with it.
Yeah, sure.
We'll get into Joker a little later. Batman, I like that he was featured in this film. Thank God he was featured in this film.
Well, I wouldn't say featured. He's more of like a cameo, like once in a great while.
Sure, yeah. In the beginning when he takes out Joker and Harley. And then when he takes out Deadshot. Couple of cool scenes, right?
Sure.
I'm glad he was in there. Something tells me like he should have been featured another time to balance it out a little bit. Because I feel like all this stuff going on and the Batman is just non-existent.
Yeah. No, shoehorned. He felt kind of shoehorned into those things, you would say, because he didn't really feel like maybe naturally part of the plot. Because if that were true, he'd be still like a factor, maybe, in some of this other stuff,
I don't
maybe?
feel like he was shoehorned because he was in the right place, right time. It was Gotham, and the Joker's kind of raining down his empire upon the city, and
Sure.
Bat's trying to deal with them, right? Okay. That fits the story, all right. Yeah. So he puts Harley Quinn away, and the Joker's kind of secluded, thinking, scheming, how's he going to get her back, and that sort of thing. Kind of a little distraught, if you will, sitting in his bedroom, luxury apartment, looking at all his pretty knives and his guns. And, then the tip-off for him to take down Deadshot. That was cool. All right. Is he not going to be featured anywhere else? What I mean by balance it out, maybe somewhere towards the tail end, maybe some feature. But not a major gripe for me. I was glad he was in this movie. I think he kind of had to be, right? Because these are all Gotham. A lot of them are Gotham-based villains, right?
A counterpoint to what you're saying, though, too, is like you said that it's not all about the Joker, but then if you had too much Batman, again, this should be about the squad, and then if you make it too much about either of those characters, then you're like, well, if we make a sequel, we probably have to put both these guys in there because people are like, we expect it now. If you make it too much Batman, then people will be like, oh, Batman's like in the Suicide Squad movies. It's like, well, no, he was in that first one. And now he might not
yeah,
be.
you're right. Good argument.
I'm trying to keep it together. Keep a clear vision.
You're right.
You haven't said a lot of good things so far about a movie that got an 8. I've been hearing a lot of complaints, but I'm not hearing a lot of good things.
Well, like I said, I like the modern vibe. I thought the music was kind of good. It was fitting. I thought
you like the Eminem song, Joe? You like that Eminem song in there?
I'm trying to think of when it was featured.
With Harley Quinn, I remember. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. They're kind of zany, maniacal characters. I think it's all right.
I couldn't stand it. I'm sorry. I couldn't. They just put it in there. It didn't make any sense. It's just like, here's an Eminem song. Freaking just throw it in there whenever you want. Do whatever you want.
I know what the song is. I'm trying to think.
All of his big hits sound the same. I can't. It's not Shady's Back. Is it Real Slim Shady? I don't know.
No, I know it is.
I
Anyway,
don't know.
let's keep it going. I'll look it up.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so okay, it's funny that you're talking about these other characters too. You have not mentioned like Will Smith or Margot Robbie's
No, we're
performances.
gonna get into the characters first. I was trying to pick out things that I liked and didn't like, sort of a deal.
Okay, sure.
And
how about plot wise? What do you think of the plot as a whole? As they kind of make it seem like they made the squad come together to go fight Enchantress, but really it's more of an extraction mission. It's not about fighting her at all.
Yeah, it's about getting what's her name out of there, right? What's her name?
Yeah, Amanda Waller.
Yeah, Amanda Waller. For some reason, that name is not very memorable to me. Anywho.
It's probably a bad idea to have those people you planted explosives in their necks to come save you. I just wouldn't, personally, that wouldn't be the team I'd bring to
And
come
she
save
doesn't die. After all she goes through, she's just fine. And she still has her cell phone for some reason.
She's got to not die, man. She's like without her, the Suicide Squad wouldn't, people would be like, well, who else would want to be in charge of this? If you're in charge of Suicide Squad, you're going to get killed by these guys. Like, they're going to find you and kill you.
I mean, leading into it, I kind of felt like I knew Enchantress was going to be the big bad.
Sure.
Even without my prior knowledge to the movie coming out, once I saw her character and I kind of saw motives and how she was being controlled, I was like, yep, she's going to be the one. So I did like that Enchantress took over a woman's body sort of deal, or possessed her, and then that woman is in love with Captain
Rick Flag. Not to be confused with Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, who Captain Boomerang I've never known until this movie.
All right, fair enough.
Guy? And somehow I'm surprised he survived.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm picking on a lot of things I didn't like, but there's still a lot left that I liked. The vibe of the movie, fast paced, kind of, quick-witted banter. And there's a little bit of humor in there, but it still maintains a kind of dark feeling too, which I liked. Another thing I didn't like: Killer Croc going into the flooded subway.
That part is unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah, when he gets down on all fours and does his little slither into the water. Yeah,
I feel bad because I know that guy. Like when he's walking around and stuff, and he talks about this. In other interviews and stuff, that he tries to walk like a crocodile would. So he kind of moves from side to side a little bit. But then when he got that chance to finally look like a crocodile would on all fours, and he gets down and he's going to go swim underwater, he just looks like this. It looks very strange. Like
so
he gets down,
awkward. Yeah.
It's so good. And he has like one or two lines like in the whole movie, and one of them's a joke that falls so very flat. Yeah. Where he's like, "I'm beautiful," and it's like, yeah, dude, you're. Like, no one laughed in the theater. I think I got, like, a chuckle or something. I don't know if I remember, like,
I mean, I kind of smiled, I remember, because it's kind of, like, makes no sense. And it's like, sure, guy. You know what I mean? And I was all right with this character because it's clear that he was, like, some sort of street gangbanger sort of a guy turned into this, right?
I guess so. I don't know. They kind of skip his backstory completely. They're just like, the bat ran him out of Gotham because he was in the sewers.
Yeah, they really did kind of skip over him, didn't they? They didn't want to have to try and explain how he got to that point.
He was basically pointless in that film.
Yeah. I mean, it's still kind of a cool character, but...
Sure. Well, we're talking about him here, Joe. Let's just start going down. I think we should just go down the list now, and then you can figure out the good things when we're to it. Let's start off with the biggest ones. Let's just start with Will Smith's Deadshot. What do you think of Will Smith as Deadshot?
Because the only thing I dislike about him is that he's so well known, and he resonates with me as other characters from other movies.
Sure, and you've seen Deadshot like in Arrow and stuff, and
yeah, he's more of like a cowboy type.
What? A cowboy type?
I haven't seen him in Arrow.
Yeah, you have, haven't you? Yeah, he's the guy who killed Diggle's. We like to call him Dougal. Diggle's. He thought he killed Diggle's brother, but he didn't. And,
sure. Yeah. But no, I was fine with him as it's not a looks thing either. You know what I mean?
No, I don't care about that. I just wish there's one trick shot.
That's
in the
true.
Whole movie.
That's
and
true.
He's kind of known for making like impossible shots.
Yeah.
He talks about putting that mask on and then people are dying. But when he makes that first assassination mission, he does it without the mask on and then puts it on and then rappels down a building, and we don't know what happens. But I think the thing that bothered me the most, Joe, is that he basically was just himself. He just played Will Smith, and the people who like this incarnation of Deadshot, I think, just like Will Smith. Like, this didn't seem like Deadshot to me. Like,
That's
Deadshot's
true. Well,
typically
that is
like...
one thing I was going to bring up, is that they should have showcased his abilities more.
Yeah.
The only thing they really did that really showed it off was the first trick shot, right, from the top of the building after he gets his $2 million. And then when they're in the office space and they're just... Or no, when they're down on the street and he gets up on that police car and just takes out like the whole army of them by himself. Those are the only 2 points that really show him off.
But he doesn't have a death wish. Like, that's one fun thing about Deadshot is, like, he typically has, like... He has a death wish, like he's just gonna be. He's like, I'm gonna die, like, you know. And he doesn't. And he's got like this kind of interesting thing, like with Batman. Like, he's had the chance to kill Batman a few times, and he personally doesn't pull the trigger. Like, his daughter obviously got in the way here, and she has in the comics and stuff too. But I feel like this Deadshot was just more. It was just kind of like this charismatic Will Smith that even it was really strange when he talked to El Diablo. Like, he'd be like, you know, he'd say like "cuz" or whatever. He'd kind of use like this street lingo, which I thought was very odd.
Well, I thought he was like poking at him a little bit.
Oh, he definitely was. I just thought it was weird that he would be the one to kind of be that guy. Yeah. You know, like, I thought he'd be kind of more of like the stoic leader that doesn't want to really be here, but he just kind of gets like, you homie? Like, what? It's like, that just really was a weird part. I get that he was trying to mess with him and make him angry, but it was weird. I thought Deadshot was weird. I really don't think he was that good. I thought he was just Will Smith. Just Will Smith.
Yeah, but they do a good job of establishing his character as somebody that you kind of feel for in a way. You know, being the whole daughter situation and all that.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to be a murderer to support his kid. You could do a lot with that ability. Like, I think you could do some others. There's some other lines of work you could probably get into besides murder. Well, if you want to hang out with your kid. I'm just saying.
Sure. I mean, there's probably some backstory to all that and how he got to where he is, but...
we don't know it, though, do we?
He's a bad person. He's not like... But he has some humanity in him, you know what I mean?
If we had more of a backstory, Joe, then maybe we'd know where he came from. But all we know right now is that he is a parent that was divorced from his wife or whatnot, and he wants to provide for his child, and the only way to do that is by killing people. And she knows that he kills people, yet he still does it. And he finally goes to prison for it, where he can't provide for her anymore. And she has to spend time with her mother, who apparently isn't very... she doesn't take very good care of herself.
Yeah,
so,
drug addict. Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Just seems like a bad dad. That's all I know about Deadshot. Kind of a bad dad. In this movie. Obviously, we're going off of just this movie. So, I don't know.
The same can be said for Arrow, right? I don't know.
Sure, but at least with Arrow, it's harder to compare it to like a TV show because we've had so many seasons to kind of flesh that stuff out. You know, with this, we only had so much time and we don't know anything. We just tried to give him a daughter to humanize the guy, but that's it. He's not what makes him a leader? What makes him want this to work? You know?
Yeah.
He's
just trying to be the shining star of the group, I guess, and he's smart enough to know how to survive, sort of a thing, so he barks orders a bit more.
I guess. I don't know. I found it to be pretty bland, and I think it could have been much better. I think Will Smith was just like, I'm just being myself. Make a lot of money. I'm basically Hancock with a gun. Kind of.
Okay.
Remember that movie, Hancock? Most people don't. That's okay. We have differing opinions on it, but how about Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie? What do you think of her?
I think she did a good job.
Yeah, I thought she was good too.
Maniacal, crazy, everything you wanted Harley Quinn to be. The speech was on point. The lines were pretty good and smart, clever, etc.
Did you like the part when she kind of called out El Diablo about, you know, dealing with his past at the bar when she got like really serious?
At first,
I thought that was a weird
at first I didn't
scene.
Kind of understand it.
Well, she got like angry at him about, she's like, if you murdered kids, you have to deal with that. You have to carry it with you. And it's like, I think earlier in the movie they show in her file, or at one point, or maybe in the trailer, they show that she's implicated in the murder of Robin, like Batman's Robin. So it's like really weird for her to be giving out moral advice about like dealing with your past.
No, it's like she's come to terms with being a bad person and doing bad things, and she feels like if he's a bad person, he should do the same thing.
Sure. It just felt out of place.
I felt like it was a little out of place too. Maybe that's probably the only gripe in the whole movie I have with her.
I love the other part where she meets Katana, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is Katana," blah blah blah. And she's like, puts her hand out, she's like, "Nice to meet you." Like that's like a Harley Quinn, like she would be like, she just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like I'm kind of nuts, but
that was pretty good.
She got everything else I thought pretty on point. I just don't
except for, was she like super strong or something because of baseball
Nope.
bat? Really?
No, thank you. I was just thinking that, Joe, and I didn't want to bring that up, but it's like this whole team, like out of all of them, I look at this lineup and she is the one I think who's least qualified to be there in every sense. Not only does she have no superpowers, she has horrible connections with somebody who is like a terrorist, and she just has a baseball bat. Yeah. And she's insane.
Well, and a really nice revolver, but
but any moment she could just start putting down members of the team. You know what I mean? Like she could just be like, "Oh, Rick Flag, you're dead," and then it's like, "All right, well then we just blow her up." But then we also lost this amazing war veteran who could lead these psychos. You know what I mean? Like she's the craziest of all of them, and you just give her a baseball bat and a revolver, and you're like, "Go fight and win." It's like she wouldn't last a second against anyone, especially Superman, which in the old trailers that's what they've meant to make you believe, that they're like, this team would be, what happened if Superman came down and tore off the roof of the White House and stole the president? It's like El Diablo might last like 3 seconds against him, if that, but like nobody else in this team has a shot. No one would.
El Diablo is really the most powerful of any of them,
for sure. I thought his character was pretty good. The only problem I had with him, Joe, personally,
is when he said, "It's on, bitch."
No, that, and when he's like, "I lost one family, I'm not gonna lose another," and then he like ran in and like did his thing. I was like, that's fine, but you've known these other people who are all very bad people for like what, a day or two, and you're like ready to throw your life away for these individuals. Like, it just seemed really weird to me. But besides that, I liked, it was kind of interesting to see him not use his powers until later. I thought that was kind of like they were going to build up to it, and I thought it was kind of dumb because for a lot of the fights in the beginning, he walks and I was like, "I'm not using my powers. I'm not going to use them." He's like, "They're unwieldy," or whatever. I'm like, you seem to have pretty freaking good control of your powers, pal. Like, he's doing a pretty good job. And then, later on, he finally transforms, and that part I thought was pretty neat. I love the design.
I thought it was too. And then when he gets thrown back into that little shop or whatever, and there's like the family photos on the rack that are half burnt or whatever.
Oh, nice.
And he kind of sees them, and then he becomes enraged, sort of a deal.
I like when he puts his hand on, I think his name is Incubus, like Enchantress's brother or whatever.
And
he kind of
melting
like
through him. I was like, "Oh, yeah, sweet. This guy's done for, right? Like he's just gonna melt through him." I thought, "Wow, this is awesome."
That's the problem when you have like magic people and you don't explain how they live through stuff like that. Because right there, I was like, "Oh, we've already taken down one villain right there," and it's like, nope, he just like can't. I was like, "How the heck did you come back from that?" He just like, I'm like, all right, whatever. But which fun side note, Incubus, and then obviously we had a character in the very beginning named Slipknot. I like that there's a bunch of different band names in this movie. I would have really liked to watch the band Incubus fight the band Slipknot, but maybe another time.
That probably wouldn't go too well.
Which, just side note about Slipknot, he's not a big character, but when he comes out of the SUV or whatever, and they're like, "Slipknot, the man that can climb anything," I was like, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly say about like a person to join the team. Like, he has like a grapple gun. Like,
I know he can climb anything.
Like, that's on your rap sheet. Like, what did he do? Like, he climbed up to the top of the Empire State Building, and that's illegal, so we had to put him behind bars. Like,
yeah, like he's the only one that seemed kind of worthless. So of course he was the one they had to sacrifice to show off the fact that they'll kill him if they do something wrong.
Sure, and I think in the comics he's like one of the first to die too. And Captain Boomerang is also kind of known for getting people killed that way, which is a good segue into Captain Boomerang. Which what did you think about him? Jai Courtney keeps popping up in these roles everywhere, but what did you think of Captain Boomerang? For a guy who, by the way, throws a grand total of, I think, 3 or 4 boomerangs in the entirety of the film.
That's true, and his name's Captain Boomerang, really. Yeah. How's a boomerang so unbelievably awesome that he gets on the team? I don't know.
I think it's good against the Flash, who we saw for a second there. He looked pretty good. It felt kind of shoehorned in. But I think it's cool. I think it was supposed to be like, if Flash is really fast, if he throws a boomerang, it's kind of harder to perceive where the weapon will hit him from. I don't know. It's weird. Flash villains, man. Can be kind of weird. But what did you like? Did you like Captain Boomerang? Did you like him?
As a character, I mean, he was kind of okay. He's kind of that dumb one of the group, that kind of makes his way through all right. But
sure, he was the comedy relief, I think.
A little bit. A little bit.
A comedic relief. Tried to cracking a beer or whatever. And
he was drinking energy drinks the whole time.
Oh, was he drinking energy drinks? Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, I don't know. He throws like that. It's funny that one point.
Guinness.
Throws that one boomerang that's like, it's got the camera on it.
Yeah.
Like a Batman boomerang, like a Batarang, and he's got like everybody around his Samsung phone, and they're all looking at it, and it's like this really high def, beautiful quality visual, and I'm like, how the heck did you... That's real nice tech you got there, man. I guess it's from robbing every single bank in Australia, which, if I found out, is like thousands of banks, and then he comes to the United States. It's like, if you weren't caught in Australia after robbing every single bank, like, how much money do you have? Like, what are you doing? Like, just quit. Just be like, I'm done.
Rob a few and call her a day, pal.
How does a man with boomerangs rob a bank? I don't know, man. These are the questions.
Yeah, I know. That's also, the problem with characters from comics in general. They're kind of...
Sure. But I think, there's kind of a fun dynamic between him and Katana, who isn't really a bad guy. But, I thought...
We should go out sometime, or whatever he says to her.
Well, there's like the kind of... She's like the straight man to his kind of crazy. And they could do like... I've heard, like one of our fans was saying like you do like a buddy cop movie. But I kind of wanted more of those two together because I think that'd be a fun pairing, because he'd say something really stupid and she'd just be, kind of straight face like, you're an idiot and I'd kill you if I had the chance.
And I don't know anything about her. She just kind of showed up and I was like, oh, well, okay, suppose we need to add one more to the group.
Yeah, I know. She was on Arrow as well, but her ability is she has that sword, and they talked about it, like, could steal the souls of other men and stuff, but she doesn't even do that. Like, in the trailer you see it happening, but that doesn't happen in this. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so she didn't steal Incubus's soul when she cut off his arm.
I guess not. And and then Harley gets to use her sword on Enchantress, and then she cuts her up and then grabs her heart, like the old bait and switch.
Oh, sure.
Which makes no sense because if Harley's insane, it'd be kind of great if she would have like legitimately teamed up with Enchantress. I just think they couldn't do that because they're like, oh, Harley's got a good heart. And she's for
she
the
wants
team.
The world to stay as it is so she can keep doing bad, crazy things.
But what if she could bring Joker back from the dead, which presumably... And after that, his weird helicopter crash, which obviously he's not dead.
No.
But that whole sequence... is like the last thing you see Joker do, kind of blow up maybe in a helicopter. Like, that was kind of weird. He's just kind of out there, and you're like, all right, well, bye. Like, you don't see him anymore.
They leave the stupid people guessing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Well, when they were both in that helicopter, I was thinking, the fans will keep these guys alive. There's nothing that can kill these two. I'm like, they'll be just fine. Like, they should have done like an after credits scene. I thought with him that would have been kind of good to show him like, oh, like he's fine. Like,
well, we know he's fine because he gets her out of the prison. But
that's true. Oh, you're totally right, Joe. It would have been nice to. I guess you're totally right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the prison break or whatever with the word Joker on their little SWAT team outfits.
Yeah, which is cool.
I like the Joker's kind of getting on the ground doing his own SWAT team stuff. Let's see, who else we have? Rick Flag, we talked about briefly, and we already mentioned about Killer Croc, but that's pretty much all the main people. Amanda Waller, I thought she was I thought Viola Davis did a really good job. It's my favorite Amanda Waller I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'll say that much. Very serious. She had a few cheesy lines too, which made me really sad because Amanda Waller I wouldn't think would kind of bring herself down to that level. I think she calls someone a bitch at some point, or something like that. I
never had anything stand out to me as being weird with her, but
it's weird how she kills all those people that she's been working with.
Oh yeah, in the FBI office there. But I think it was like an emergency thing, and she brought people that were uncleared in to do some stuff.
Yeah, but if she was gonna do that, it should have been like more pronounced because she was just like killing them in the background. She just like pulls out a gun, starts shooting people, and then he's like, damn, that's cold or whatever. Like, and there again, there's another moment from Deadshot where it's just like, why would he? He's like, oh, I wouldn't want to mess with her or whatever. I'm like, oh God, like the writing, Joe. I think that's my problem with this movie. The writing is atrocious. It's bad. There's not a lot of good lines of dialogue, especially like the "Let's go save the world." like that kind of crap.
Yeah,
come on,
that's
guys.
True.
We got to get past it.
Cheesy writing in here.
Why is Deadshot saying stuff? And then he's like, right before he puts the mask on, he's like looking at Harley. He's like, when I put this mask on, it's like some people die, and I'm like, that's the point. That's why you. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you hesitating?
I wish they would have featured the mask a little more.
Oh, I was thinking,
or
and
his
I've heard this too.
reticle thing.
I like that too. And I wonder if they'll just use that in subsequent movies when if Will Smith doesn't come back, and they're just like, it's Deadshot. Like if they do that, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, like it's Iron Man, we swear. Like like he just doesn't talk a lot. We just use cut dialogue from this movie. He's like, hey guys, watch out. But yeah, I like that mask as well. I thought that was pretty cool. It'd have been kind of cool to see like inside from the reticle's perspective.
Kind of like an
when he was
Iron Man deal.
Yeah, like or not just like his face close up. I just mean like if you looked through it and he was like sniping somebody. Because I kind of thought it would have been cooler if Deadshot, he would have been away from the team, but if he would have been like up on a building at some point, like doing Overwatch for them, and like kind of just like dropping people from 1,000, 3,000
it would have been
feet
cool.
away.
It would have been more true to who Deadshot is with the trick shot shit.
Sure. Yeah, I see you're getting comfortable. You're leaning back. Joe's like getting all comfy.
It's been a long day at the office, pal. Been
I know
like
it's alright
for hours.
Well, that's why I tell you sit in the desk, Joe, because then it throws up. Then people are like, I can't hear Joe. He's laying back. Where I'm like, well, he's lounging. He got his drink out, the little umbrella in the cup, and he's like, here we go. He's got his energy drink. I can't say which it is because we're not sponsored by them yet. He's doing his best Captain Boomerang impression. I'm
not that lame.
I think besides that, Enchantress, I guess, is the last main person that we need to really get into. What did you think of her as a villain? Did you like her? Did you hate her? Was she kind of bleh?
I did until she said that you don't have the balls to do it or whatever.
Yeah, I don't like that she was just like manufacturing people for them to kill. Like she made that super weapon, then she was just like kissing a bunch of dudes and then making them like weird like shadow zombie things that were just basically cannon fodder. Just like, okay, we've seen that a lot now. We saw obviously like the Avengers fight the Chitauri, and then we saw them fight Ultron, but in both those cases I felt like it made a bit more sense. And now it was just like a villain just like legitimately mass producing stuff like that when it wouldn't matter if she was going to blow up the world or cover it in darkness anyway. It seemed very strange to me. Yeah.
She was much more freaky and crazy and kind of neat when she wasn't like full-fledged Enchantress, and
sure,
she got
yeah,
her full deal. But her brother was a little. I get that they had to do something big and bad, so
sure.
It was okay. But
question for you, Joe: how does a team of people with mostly guns and a baseball bat take on an individual who can teleport across the entire planet into a secure facility and steal a bunch of information and teleport back? Like, how do you
combat that when all you have is a baseball bat and a sharpshooter?
Exactly. I mean, they should have all died. They really should have they should be dead.
Yeah, pretty much. But
there shouldn't have been.
But Enchantress was stupid as you guys are obviously worthy foes to me. Would you join me? I'll give you one last chance. And then Harley kind of tricks her into that whole thing. So
I can't believe she thought they were worthy.
But it had to be done somehow. And, the
not
villain
worthy.
had to seem powerful in some way. If it was just some stupid deal, terrorist or something, that would have been kind of blah.
I think this is another major problem with the film, Joe, is that they typically don't go after people like this. They typically go after like dictators or warlords or something. And I thought that would have been kind of cool because it would be like, all right, they have special abilities that normal human beings like you or I wouldn't be able to combat. Because I'd be like, I'm just like a hired gun for this warlord. And if a dude comes in who can shoot a bullet behind him and it can like ricochet a bunch and take me out, then that's somebody that I can't really fight. And that would have been more interesting. And I think it probably would have bridged, if they're killing more people, it probably would have gone more towards the R side, which this movie I think could have easily been an R-rated film.
It should have been. And you know what? You're right. I think it might have been a little cooler if it was more political and going after dictators or something. Because
that's the whole point of the squad. Like she says, she's like, if it goes wrong, we just throw them under the bus. But it's like, well, if this mission goes wrong, you die, Amanda Waller. Like, it's not like deniability. It's like, it doesn't matter who you send into this town to take this person out or save myself. It's like, send anybody. Show them on a mission beforehand, I think, would have been better. Doing something like a political assassination and then go to this, because they feel like in Hollywood, like these movies, that you have to have this insurmountable threat to make it really, really cool. And I think that's
not true. You're absolutely
it's not
right.
true. It's just, I thought it would have been way cooler if you make a cool villain, like a dictator, terrorist, warlord, and have them focus on taking this dude out. Because then if some of them die, or if they get caught, like, the media or the news finds out about it, and they'll be like, oh yeah, no, this is just a bunch of villains that decided to do this because this guy had a ton of money, had some kryptonite maybe, and they were going to get it because they want to kill, like, Superman.
Yeah.
Or something like that, like, make it a little more of a compelling plot. I don't know.
Straight up, we just came up with a couple other great plot ideas that they probably should have went after.
Yeah.
Start out a little smaller and then get to epic proportions later.
Also, I think the thought of kind of, selling this movie with a little bit of Batman and a lot of Joker is a bad idea, because going forward, I feel like you have to have the Joker in Suicide Squad movies now, because it wouldn't stand without him, because they didn't give it its chance. It's kind of like a little bit like, look at Guardians of the Galaxy, which I did make a comparison video to, guys. You should definitely check it out. But like, think if you did that movie, Joe, and you brought Iron Man into it, and you said Iron Man's going to be in this movie from time to time, because Iron Man has joined the Guardians from time to time, and I'm going to say time to time just a bunch. But think if you sold that movie on Robert Downey Jr. being in there. It would be kind of rough to make any other Guardians movies without him, because people would be like, oh, no, Robert Downey Jr. is in this one too, and he's a big selling point, and it's going to make a lot of more money. They didn't do that. They didn't rely on any previous Marvel characters to promote it. They didn't have, like, Thor or anybody in there.
True.
They're like, this is a bunch of new people you've never heard before, and it's in the Marvel universe, and there might be like a kind of an Easter egg or a cameo of somebody that might show up in another movie, like The Collector. But besides that, you're not going to get anybody like that. Now Suicide Squad has kind of pigeonholed themselves, where they're like, well, can we rely on Will Smith returning, which I'm sure he signed a contract, and then Harley Quinn without the Joker? Because that was the most compelling relationship, I thought, in the whole film, was between her and the Joker. You take him out of it now, you have to have him in there. He needs to be like a kind of like your Loki, if you will. Like, he always has to show up in these other movies, because he's like a selling point. And the fact that they cut so much of his stuff, like he was saying that they could have made a whole movie about that, with just Joker and Harley footage, which I thought was it's cool, it's interesting. I just think it would have been better if you had done your Batman standalone before this movie. You have Joker be the main villain in that one with Harley. You kind of see Harley, become who she is. Yeah. And also at some point show Batman taking out Killer Croc. So that way when you go into this movie, you're like, oh, I know 3 people already. I don't have to be like, who the heck is this guy?
Sure. So Suicide Squad should have had some prequels leading up to it, huh?
Yeah, they're just playing. I think this is just catch up, Joe. To be honest, I think that, again, they're playing that Marvel catch up game. That they're just like, we got to get out as much information as much.
That they're, that they feel that that's. I mean, you're right. It seems that that's what they're doing, and trying to catch up to Marvel is stupid. Yeah. Do it on your own timeline, your own pace. Eventually you'll get to that same level that Marvel is at right now. You know what I mean? You're just lagging behind them. You don't have to be at the same level they're at right now. It's stupid.
No, yeah, it is dumb. I just think too, it's like, well, eventually Marvel could potentially, they will taper off at some point. It's like, wouldn't that be the best time for DC to just be hitting Justice League? Like, when people are like, oh man, I've seen so many Marvel movies, and like, oh, but the Justice League movies, I've been waiting for years to see this, because like, they had the Batman movie, they had the Man of Steel, they had Wonder Woman beforehand, and now it's Justice League, and they had Aquaman beforehand and stuff. It's like, no, they're just gonna cram it all together, and then it just makes me sad, because there's so much potential. And in my review, I said this too. It's just like the other DC movies. I'm just disappointed. I'm not mad. I see all the stuff they could do, and I feel like they're just not doing it. Like, it's like they have these brief moments where you're like, that's so cool, and then they just go into this other garbage, and you're just like, oh my gosh. Like, this movie felt like it was made for a 13-year-old. The writing, the style of it, the fast pace, like it barely has any connection. The group doesn't feel cohesive at all. They barely work together. Like, they all were killing stuff by themselves. Like, they weren't like, oh, I'll do this and then you do this. Like, at the very end, he's like, I'll throw the bomb and you shoot the bomb, and it's like, they didn't do any of that stuff, man. It's like, what the heck? It just bothers me. I look at Guardians of the Galaxy again. It's just people we never even heard of before, and they're working as a group of all these weird, strange people. And that movie plays so much better, I think, as far as like an ensemble-y type movie of cast of just like crazy no-names.
The more I think about it, the more you talk, I'm starting to get that feeling like, yeah, it should have been a bunch of single standalones leading up to this. It would have made you feel more invested, more amped on it, like seeing this one from this movie come in to join the group and this one from that movie coming in. It could have been, it had a little bit more of an epic feel to it.
Yeah, especially with like Joker and Harley, if they would have been more established in a Batman movie, and then you'd say like, all right, well, at least we got Will Smith into the Suicide Squad, just like and then focus maybe more on his character and flesh him out a little bit more, and then make him more of like a focal point, and then have like Harley come in and be like, oh my gosh, Harley's here from that Batman movie, like, and Joker's gonna show up at some point too. You know, it's too much. They just rush through those backstories too, man. Like some of them, like Killer Croc, they just didn't even have one.
However, we do have to keep in mind that they're villains.
That doesn't mean they need to be any less compelling. They should be just as good as the heroes.
Did they do backstories for Red Skull? Did they do backstories for the Iron Man villains, etc.? This is more solely focused on the villains.
Yeah, they did kind of do backstories for all of them. Red Skull didn't get super fleshed out, but you kind of knew where his stuff was coming from. I just thought that if you're going to show off like the backstories of like 5 or 6 individuals, which is too much in the first place, it just is going to get bogged down no matter what. Look at, again, I got to stop doing this, but Guardians, they just say their backstory. We don't see it. We don't see Drax's backstory. We don't see Gamora's. We don't see Rocket's. We don't see Groot's. They just talk about it. We don't see it. Don't show me the backstory if you don't have enough time to show it to me. You know what I mean? Like, show me the whole thing. Let's show it later on. Like, don't show me all this El Diablo stuff and then just have him die. And be like, oh, that's supposed to be emotionally impactful. It's like, whatever. Show me, like...
Is he really dead?
I don't know. Probably not. It bothers me, Joe. It really does. And, like, Killer Croc, like... He's in it. Are we going to get his backstory in the next movie? It's like, well, at that point, I don't care because he barely said anything. He was just like there to bite people, kind of, and scratch them up.
Yeah. Yeah, needless to say, maybe an 8 was a little too high of a rating. I mean, what do you give it, Jimmy?
People will have to watch the review to find out. No, I'm just kidding. I will show you with my hands, so that way I don't give it away to all the people.
Okay.
Yeah. Not the worst, but disappointing. About the same score I gave to, like, Batman vs. Superman and stuff. Again, like that movie, I saw there's so many moments, or there's a few moments where I'm like, damn, this is kind of cool, and then they just a bunch of garbage. But the one thing that would have set me over the top, Joe, is if Lex Luthor would have shown up in this movie. I would have been like, I'm out. I would have stood up and been like, I'm out. See you later.
All right. Like, so taking into account everything we've talked about, and being that it's, you know, my thoughts have simmered down and we've gotten everything out on the table, there really are too many gripes versus the good to give it an 8.
Sure. It
is more of like a 6.5 or, I mean, if I was being generous, I'd give it a 7.
Sure.
Because, I don't think that's like Batman vs. Superman, I don't remember what I gave it, but I'm sure it was somewhere in the 8. Somewhere around there.
Yeah, which we should watch that again. I really want to do a commentary with you on that because
let's do it.
We should. I think people would like that. Like I said, there's another guy who does that. It's just really entertaining because it's just like you play this movie maybe on mute or whatever, but then you just hear Joe and myself just kind of be like, all right, what do we think of this scene? What do we think of that? Do I like that? Do I like this?
Pull it up right now. We'll do it right now. This will be the longest podcast in the history of critical reviews.
People will be like, why is this on like 4 hours? I'd be like, well, we watched the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman in there. Our longest podcast yet. Yeah. But anyway, so you're giving it like a 6.5, 7.
Yeah, somewhere when it's all around that range. Because it is... There are some gripes there. You know, initially after seeing the movie, I was thinking more like 8 because I enjoyed it. Like it did kind of, you know, it had its pokes of humor and it had its intensity and fast paced and the music kind of amped it up once in a while, and it had that modern flair via the music. But yeah, there's a lot that they could have done better. There were some cheesy ass one-liners that kind of really stuck out to me. And the Joker parts and the continuity of the movie did seem to be a little piecemeal to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that being said, I came out of the movie theater with decent vibes. I even listened to the Suicide Squad album just because, I thought the music was kind of neat, legit. There's some slower songs in there with a modern twist, by like Skylar Grey, and there was one other one that was the closing credits song that was
21 Pilots.
Heathens, by 21 Pilots, who that band's just killing it regardless, and that's a good song, fitting for the movie.
Yeah. I think it was made for the movie.
The other one was
maybe.
Oh my god, I know the name. Imagine Dragons, Lil Wayne, and it's Ty Dolla $ign and all that, and Wiz Khalifa. I thought that was a good song. That was during the closing credits. But
sure.
Yeah, I came out with good feelings, but I don't think it was because of the movie itself.
You were tricked.
Yeah, it just
like Jared Leto, he was tricked.
One thing I did like about the movie, Jimmy, is that Suicide Squad, Joker, Harley Quinn, and some piecemeal crazy people, villains, whatever, bad people.
Yeah.
I like the graphics. Like the movie posters, Suicide Squad, and it's kind of multicolored clowny with like different stuff. The closing credits where they got names popping up, and it's like the screensaver array of like graphics going into the depths and kind of zany. I thought that was neat. The graphics are well done. I thought that's kind of a cool touch on a movie like that.
Sure. You want to something kind of interesting, Joe, is if you go back and watch the first trailer, which I think is much more somber. It's like that I started the joke song or whatever, and you see the Suicide Squad, the logo is like silver and red. It's like not colorful at all, but now it's become like neon and crazy.
Yeah.
And all the stuff you just mentioned too. And this movie was actually cut by or edited by people who typically do music videos, edits and stuff like that.
Oh.
And I think that was one of my problems too, is that the editing was kind of crazy, and maybe that was part of it felt like a really long music video at some points.
Yeah.
Because they kept kind of throwing in just like the songs you mentioned aren't so bad, but I mean, for me, the Eminem song, playing Bohemian Rhapsody again after seeing the trailer about 1,000 times, like all that stuff, I felt like they just kind of like threw it in there just to be like, all right, we need music here because we can't have silence. So
I kind of hate the song Bohemian Rhapsody.
I've heard it too many times myself.
It was kind of ugh.
It just seemed weird.
Clearwater? That was alright.
It felt like it wanted to be Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sorry, I know I keep talking about it. It felt like it really wanted to be that. It felt like it was
but Marvel
so
beat them to that, so of course it's gonna feel like that. It's kind of the same thing.
Sure.
Comic book characters, yeah.
But if you watch my comparison video, no. But again, with the music and stuff, and a bunch of people we've never seen before trying to fight for a cause that's bigger than themselves, and it just felt like a bunch of criminals and stuff. It just felt like they could have gone in a completely different direction. For as much as they want to catch up to Marvel, I think trying to be too different from Marvel, like with Batman vs Superman, and then like this movie trying to be too much like Marvel, isn't working. They can't find their own tone. And I know in the past you said that you don't want too much humor, but you like the humor in this movie. So it's like, would you like to see that in Justice League again? Look at that new trailer. That's like kind of like pithy and like kind of like, oh, look at that joke, and like, do you like that? Do you want more of that? Or do you not?
No, not necessarily. For this movie, I felt it was warranted because first of all, you got Joker and Harley Quinn, and it's expected. And villains, I feel like, are going to be a little more haphazard. Like
haphazard?
Bad situations are like, I'm a bad person, bad things, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the heroes from DC have a much more serious tone.
Yeah, sure.
They're like
That's
the
true.
grown-ups at the dinner table, so to speak.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what I
it'll be
mean?
hard to it'll be hard to marry those themes together if they ever try to kind of bring some of these villains in. If you have like a really funny kind of like one-liner villain, and then you can bring him into like a serious like Batman movie where he's just kind
Well,
of like,
it's fine. I mean, they are gonna be zany and a little more off the cuff, right? Or shoot from the hip and crazy. But
zany. I just think of Lex Luthor, and then I get really sad.
yeah, I know. We don't need to talk about him. He does.
I'll
It
never
could
give
have
up.
been done so much better, but
I could have done it better, Joe,
but
with my weird.
it's
shaped
hard to
hand.
speculate on that how they'll meld with a serious Batman, Ben Affleck, or
Yeah.
Henry Cavill, Superman. We'll see it. It'll be like, hopefully it's a natural feeling, like, these bigger than life superheroes kind of their responses to this humor and stuff. I don't really expect too much witty banter. The
Sure.
villains will have that funny witty banter, and the heroes may have like maybe a dry remark to it or something. We'll see, and I hope they do it naturally and do a good job with it. But yeah, I mean, does that conclude our discussion on Suicide Squad? Needless to say, final concluding thoughts, I feel it's a worthwhile movie to see. I think it could have been better. Give it maybe a 7-ish, 6.5, 7-ish, but it does give you good feelings. You won't regret seeing it. It's joyful to watch, I think. But as you watch it, you will pick out things like, that doesn't totally make sense, or this could have been better. But, we're critical reviews. We're critical, right? But
Yeah.
what movie do you go to and you say, that was perfect, couldn't have been any better? That's a rare occasion, right? There are ones, but it's a rare thing. It's hard to hit the nail on the head every time for every audience member ever. So.
Yeah, I just think DC needs to do it eventually because they haven't yet.
Sure.
That's Joe's closing thoughts on Suicide Squad. I'll just say this. I was driving home from that movie, and I don't think I've ever experienced this before, but I was legitimately frowning. I was thinking about the film, and I don't do that when I come out of a movie. Usually I'm like, I'll focus on the good things, I'll get to the bad, but I felt like someone kind of gut punched me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you didn't really talk about the things that you like, Jimmy. We spent a lot of time focusing on things that,
that's because they're few and far between the things I like. Harley Quinn was fine. Again, I didn't like that moment where she was serious. It felt like it was out of nowhere. If she had more scenes like that beforehand,
which I agree with you there,
engaging with the group. I don't know. I know it's a weird nitpick, but it seems strange. I also don't like almost her involvement in this movie at all. Seems weird, but she's become such a fan favorite, and she's become part of the Suicide Squad now.
Yeah,
it's just
I will
the
give
whole
her
time.
this. She's very acrobatic, and she seems like she could be like that slippery devil that could get out of any situation.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have guns and stuff, it's like, with a lot of these superheroes, you're like, oh, like with Cap, you're like, yeah, he's got a shield, he could jump around and stuff. It's like, you take away the serum and you give that shield to like Harley, and you're like, all right, she'd probably be able to block a few shots, but I mean,
eventually she'd be dead. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the other thing that I liked besides Amanda Waller and maybe El Diablo, the effects, his visual effects and stuff, and some of the sound design was not too bad. But I think the Joker's gravitas there's like one scene, and I love when they do this, but it kind of shows one of his henchmen talking to somebody else, and you kind of see somebody pass behind this dude who's sitting down, and Joker kind of comes around, and the guy's like, holy crap, like what the heck am I looking at here? And like, the Joker he ends up like sitting down in his lap, and he's just like gets right up in his face, and he's just like looking at him, and he's just telling him all this stuff, and you're like, oh my god.
Jimmy,
I would not want to
continue
do
on
business
with
with
things
this guy.
you liked, but that you just opened a whole can of worms. Continue.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it as far as things that I liked. I'm sorry, I was reaching to find things that I liked.
Yeah. How about setting? How about the villains or the monsters, etc.?
Setting's boring, villains boring. I'm sorry, man. This just like destroyed town villain is just like I hate the whole like I want to rule a world of darkness, because if I see a villain win and rule a world of just complete darkness, like what is that? Like good job.
For some reason I thought that the ancient being creating this machine to bring the world to darkness, whatever, and rule it, I thought that was going to become some sort of dark side thing.
Oh,
I thought
okay.
somehow it was going to tie into that, like
Nice try.
that thing that she created this evilness that spread across the world or something.
Sure.
I thought that was like somehow going to, slip in there like a puzzle piece.
If only, Joe. If only they had planned it out like you would
Yeah.
have. Like, that would have been, Joe would have been like, hey, we should maybe try to think about doing this. And be like, no, Joe.
Like,
no,
think
we need to
about
do
it.
this.
Enchantress, ancient being, like both her and her brother kind of like godlike, right, of this ancient civilization.
Yeah.
Okay, somehow that magic creates the big bad for Superman and the Justice League.
Sure. Well, I guess Darkseid's more alien, but it would have been cool if it like was like a beacon to him or something.
Yeah,
even though
exactly.
like Lex said that in the last movie, he's like, he knows the bell has been rung. I'm like, what? Huh? Like what? Like, because I guess you got in the chamber. I don't know. One other thing too, quick thing. If you go spelunking in a cave and you find an ancient artifact, why does everybody, like in the DC universe, they do this with Kryptonite too in the beginning of Batman vs Superman, they like break something open. She breaks the head off this little statue. I would never think to do that. She like goes and grabs this little thing. She's like,
okay, yeah, why would she break the head off of an artifact? That did seem odd to me, like,
you're a freaking explorer, man.
Maybe
just, like,
the spirit within was compelling her to do so.
If there would have been any noise or her like thinking that, it would have been great.
See,
She's like,
if we would have directed, we would have came up with that idea, Jimmy. So
I think sometimes, Joe, and I'm sure a lot of people do this. I think like, what if you and I were just like directors, and it was just like leave her in good, together again, like working on this movie. It's like,
the writers would hand me more dialogue, and I'd be like, "Who wrote this shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it!" Try ripping a 12-inch thick book in half.
Yeah. Just like you get the first draft and you don't even look at it, you just like throw it in the garbage. They're like, "What's wrong with it, guys?" I'd be like, "It's not as good as it could be. I'm sure you can do better. Try again." They'd be like, "Oh."
They're like, "Good thing I saved that. I just poured coffee on all your computers."
Every computer. Joe's like, "I put it on my computer too, so if you emailed me, I can't get it." They're like, "You could use another whatever, man. Don't worry." But no, that'd be fun.
I backed it up to the cloud. Well, I flew up to the cloud. I blew it up.
Joe, we should try to
over that cloud.
Let's direct an independent film someday together. Right. That'll be great. We'll just be sitting there, and it'll be good because we'll keep each other in check. I like co-op directors because I think that if you have one person who just goes like Zack Snyder and they don't like rein him in,
two
like,
sets
he just
of
does
eyes
whatever
are
he
better
wants.
than one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But as far as other good things, I think that's pretty much it. But you were saying I opened a can of worms talking about the Joker sitting on a lap.
Yeah, mainly because we didn't talk about the Joker too much.
Yeah, I didn't really get the whole scene where he was in the nightclub and Harley was dancing on the pole, and like he's like, "What, you don't you want my girl?" And he's like, "Yeah, no man, she's your girl, Joker. Like, I'm not gonna touch your girl, Joker." And he's like, "Well, no, you can have her for tonight, man." And like, "What, she not good enough for you now?" And then I was like, well, what was up with that scene? Like, it seemed very weird.
Yeah.
And then Harley's like, "You don't want me now?"
It was kind of crazy. Like, he said, "That's one bad bitch you got there, Joker." And
so
and
weird.
At first I thought, did you just call my woman a bitch? I thought he was going to shoot him
I thought he was going to fillet the dude.
Like,
I was like,
"You like her?"
Yeah.
And he brings her over, and I think he was like setting him up for that. Like, the Joker was kind of testing him. Either way, I think he was going to kill him, whether he got all over or didn't. I think he was going to kill him. And mainly because I think it was another powerful member on the city streets sort of a deal. And the whole aspect was that Joker was kind of riding high on his cloud of, ruling the streets of Gotham sort of a deal.
Well, it would have been so cool if we had like one establishing scene beforehand, before that guy came to the club, and Joker would have been talking to one of his henchmen, and he's like, "Boss, why would you bring this guy in? He's our competition." And he'd be like, "Just watch what Daddy's gonna do." Like something like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
see, yeah. But that's kind of, as I was watching it, that's kind of what I'm thinking or envisioning.
Sure.
But, any good filmmaker probably would have had something like that to kind of provide reasoning and what's going on there. But another thing I liked about those scenes where they're in clubs and like the casino deal, and I'll get to the casino deal in a second, but I love that in the theater there was bass to it.
Oh sure.
Like there's that bit of background music.
Yeah.
And the bass, and it was decent music. Like, it wasn't like you could clearly make it out perfectly, but you could hear it going, and the bass really kind of amped up the scene a little bit. For some reason, I feel like any human, it's like when you go to a concert in your front row, that bass warble gives you goosebumps.
Sure.
And I feel like adding bass to film does the same thing. That bass warble just kind of makes you like, oh, like it intensifies the scene for me. And I thought that was neat. And granted, it was just the music. It wasn't explosions or shooting or anything, but I like it. It's a little nitpick aspect, but I enjoy that. So now we're in the casino, right?
Yeah. I think it's like a club or something.
Like,
I don't know.
what the hell? All of a sudden, this prison guard, the leader of the prison guard is like a crazy gambler and a high roller underground.
Oh yeah,
deal.
I forgot about that character.
First off, I recognize that character from like the Neighbors or whatever with Zac Efron and what's his face.
Sure. You think it's Seth Rogen?
Yeah. What the hell? Like, why did they choose him for anything in this movie? No. Just no. He's like a weird walking joke to me, mainly because of his other movies, but also because he's just like kind of a jokey looking guy.
Joe, that's a trope that we're seeing more and more in shows and stuff. It's like the one prison guard who happens to just like to go party at the club or whatever, and then they're like, "Oh, this is how they get into the prison," because there's this one guard who happens to just be an idiot.
Well, I thought it was stupid that he was like gambling, on credit at a casino underground with gangsters and stuff. That was stupid. They could have gone different ways about that. Like maybe he is a serious prison guard and Joker meets him in a dark alley or on his back porch when he's smoking a cigarette and the family's asleep. And then he says, I've got your family held at gunpoint. Do this for me or they're all dead. Right?
Just picture, Joe, or I'm picturing like a dining room scene where the guy walks in and he's coming into dinner or whatever. He's like, honey, I'm home. They're all sitting at the table, but it's really dark and you can barely see like the white face of the Joker like in the darkness, and he's like,
breathing heavy expecting over his wife's ear or something.
Exactly. Just like something creepy.
See?
Like,
why did they send in that stupid weird scene in the casino with that gambling guard? That guard was literally like a joke throughout the whole thing, which kind of made me mad.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like he had like a relationship with some of them, but it was like a stupid one. And also, this kind of ties into the other guard stuff. What was up with the whole like, let's throw 5 or 6 guards with shields at Deadshot every time? They didn't establish him as like a really good fighter. I mean, he punched that bag a bunch, but it's like, do you need 6 people with like riot shields to go like beat him into a corner?
Well, because he is very capable. And they don't want to risk injury to any of the guards, right? So
is he capable, Joe? He's only good with guns that we saw in this movie. We never saw him
I think he's still capable of fighting somebody off.
We didn't see that though.
He always had a couple punches with Batman, right?
Maybe, I don't know. It just seemed very strange. I was thinking they're like, we got to make Will Smith's character look as cool as possible. Let's send in a bunch of guys. I don't know. It seemed weird to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
yeah, no,
Joker.
you're totally right.
What did you think of Jared Leto's version of the Joker?
I thought he was cool. A lot of people were saying they're like, "Oh, it's not as good as Heath Ledger," and
that
might be
up!
true,
just because Heath Ledger overdosed on drugs and died and whatever doesn't mean that he's the greatest of all time.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people would be like, that's offensive, but it's like that's kind of a part of it too. Is like when an actor passes away and they kind of have an amazing performance, especially the way that his kind of was one of his last. It wasn't his last one ever, but it was one of his last. That kind of stuff kind of elevates somebody, and then getting that Academy Award posthumously, after his death. It's like, okay, that's cool that they looked at a superhero movie and they're like, hey, we can, if there's a good performance in there, we should give people credit.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow type of situation, a little bit.
Yeah. Granted, Heath Ledger's Joker was pretty amazing in his own right. This is a different take on the Joker and more fitting to this storyline or saga as opposed to The Dark Knight.
And this one is a little bit more of a mobster. Like the Joker in Dark Knight was kind of, but this one he like embraces it. Like he walks around most of the time with a crew.
Yeah, well, think about it. Throughout the comics and the cartoons, the Joker always had his mob crew.
He's got henchmen and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's not just a single guy planting bombs and doing stuff. But they kind of drew more attention to that in this film. Not to mention, he's a little more he's even more out there in this one, like zany out there.
Sure.
He's off the rails, so to speak. I loved it. And it's more fitting because Harley Quinn's in here.
Yeah,
and how would they have made Harley Quinn look, or how would they have portrayed her with Heath Ledger's character? Would she have been crazy?
It wouldn't have worked.
Zany? I don't think it would have worked
because their relationship needs to be, it needs to be unstable and it needs to be kind of abusive. And they also took a moment in the apparently out of there where he slaps Harley because he's been very physically abusive to Harley in the past. And I think people would have been like, "Oh, that's how can he do that to her?" But that's just how Joker treats Harley. It's not like this is how men treat women. It's just like how Joker is.
Yeah.
And the one thing I like about this one, Joe, as compared to Heath Ledger's Joker, is that Joker, I kind of always knew what he was going to do. He wasn't unpredictable. Like, this, they tried to make him seem unpredictable. He's like, I'm just a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do if I ever caught one. It's like, no, you're a schemer, Joker. You're a huge schemer. This Joker, I never knew what he was going to do. Like, he was just kind of like, if he wanted to kill you, he might want to kill you right now, but in a second he'd be like, maybe I don't. And then he's like, but maybe I do. And, it's kind of like one of those things. Like, you never know.
They did a good job of making this guy seem completely off the rails.
And also, he got, 5-10 minutes worth of screen time altogether, whereas Heath Ledger got way more than that.
Yeah.
Like, a bit more than that. So it's kind of hard for people to be like, yeah, this one's worse. It's like, we haven't seen enough.
But I'm fine with it.
I think there should have been more. But again, it shouldn't be all about Joker.
It's a good whetting the palate for wanting more. And eventually there's going to be more of a featurette for Joker. Whether that's in the standalone Batman movie, which I'm sure it will be, or his own standalone or something of that nature.
It's just unfortunate that both Jared Leto and the masses kind of thought there was going to be more of him in it due to the trailers and all the work that he put into it. And now you can't say that like every trailer that's made before a movie is completely done and edited is like shows everything from the film, because a lot of times that doesn't happen. But when you see scenes like with him again and you think there's going to be more of it and they kind of show you the movie, like the trailers for the movie, and they show him prominently, you think like as a ratio, which you probably shouldn't do, but I'm like, oh, there's like a lot of Joker here, so there'll probably be like this much Joker in a ratio to the film as there were the trailers, because they focused on him a lot.
Yeah,
you're like,
just got people to the theater, that's all.
Exactly. One other thing, I wish that maybe going forward, they don't all need the same costumes, but I didn't really get his henchmen like earlier. Like one's wearing like a Batman outfit, one's wearing like a goat costume, and it's like everyone is wearing
panda. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, like if you didn't know that the Joker was into that, you'd be like, "Who are these guys?" Like like at first it's just like, okay, there's just like a bunch of people costumed individuals with machine guns. Like it seemed kind of weird. I thought it would be kind of cool if Joker had like, because he looked like he was a snappy dresser, and it would kind of been cool if he's like, all right, my boys are gonna be the best looking boys on the street. Like, we're gonna be classy, but we're also gonna be kind of crazy. Because his right hand man was actually kind of cool. Like he just kind of did whatever he wanted. He was the guy firing the minigun. He was
almost like a corrupt guy for hire, it seemed. I don't know if he was the right-hand man or not.
Yeah, I liked him, though, because he was just kind of like, yeah, I just do it with the Joker. He was never like, I'm out, doing this for myself and doing this for money. Yeah, he's just like, yep, I'm going to be here to meet you, and then my boss is going to come in, and you're probably going to be like, what's going on? Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah, the hand of the king.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, pretty much. But, yeah, probably Joker might have been my favorite thing, but there wasn't enough of him. I wanted more, and again, Amanda Waller, Harley Quinn is pretty good.
They did their job. They left you wanting more.
Yeah, it just shouldn't. Joker should not have been in this movie.
I liked his voice. I loved his mannerisms. His laugh was pretty good. How it's kind of strained and a little more high pitched.
I guess.
That's what Joker is, and to me, cartoon wise, and growing up, Batman fan and all that, I think he did a good job as Joker. Honestly,
sure.
I don't want to say I prefer this Joker to the other one, but this one is much more, as we said, unpredictable, zany, and off the rails to the point where he's a threat. He's like pretty crazy. So, needless to say, Jared Leto, good job. Probably one of my favorite parts of the movie is Joker.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been in this film, though. Joker should not be associated. The only thing that ties him to Suicide Squad is Harley, and it should have been hinted at. We should really have not have seen a lot of Joker in the first place. They shouldn't have made him do all this work just to have it be cut out and then subsequently put into the Ultimate Edition, which I'm sure will come out. So if you want to see this movie in all of its glory, quote unquote, I say wait a few months before they release the ultimate 3-hour cut or 3.5-hour cut like they did with Batman, because that's going to happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
You know? And like Leto said, he's like, if I were to die tomorrow, they'd probably roll something out, like all my Joker scenes. And I was like, he's not wrong, you know? Like, WB like, oh yeah, they gotta do this. One thing I will say, though, about Heath Ledger's, and that I want to see more of the Joker do this kind of thing, when he gives Harvey Dent that pistol in the hospital, and he's like, you know, let's cause a little anarchy or whatever, and he makes him point the gun at, like, his own temple, you know, and Joker's like, you know, and then he's gonna flip the coin to see if Joker lives or dies. I want to see more of that kind of, like, I'm not afraid to die Joker, because there was ever a moment in this movie where I was like, oh, he's in a lot of danger. It would just been kind of cool to see him be like, I don't care if I die, you know, if we both die, that's fine, you know, like, just not care. That'd be kind of fun to see. So I don't know, maybe we'll get more of that in the future. But geez, Joe, that was great. Good conversation about the Suicide Squad. I brought you down from your 8.5 to a 7.
Yeah, it's
so my
more
work
realistic.
here is done.
More realistic. So, Jimmy,
Yeah.
I mean, to the people, what do you think? I mean, do you think they should see it? I mean, I think they should.
I think you should wait, honestly. I don't think it's worth seeing in theaters. It's good, but there's not a lot of special effects that you haven't seen before in other movies, or things that it's not the big spectacle that it tries to be.
Yeah.
And I think seeing a lot of movies in theaters nowadays, it's like, I don't know, like, again, you know, I know you're not a huge fan of Star Wars, but those are movies that are, like, the best in a theater. If I watch it at home, it's fine, but it's not as good. With Suicide Squad, I feel like I'm not going to miss out on a lot if I were to watch it again on a smaller screen without the big sound system and stuff.
As long as you
long as
you have the subwoofer and the surround sound, you'll be all right at home.
Joe's like, if you could just make bass noises in a black theater, like, he'd be like, just the Jurassic Park, just like a boom.
Yeah, I'd walk out and I'd give it a strong 8.5.
Joe's like, that movie was like a 9. And they're like, dude, there wasn't anything there. Dude, like, a 9 is a 9.
All right, so next topic, Jimmy. I already got it for you. Henry Cavill teased Superman's new uniform.
Oh, geez, Joe. I love it. Hashtag mullet for Superman.
Hashtag what?
Because it's like that black uniform, and in the comics it's like a black uniform with a silver S, and then he has kind of like a mullet. So that's been kind of like a thing going around Twitter right now.
I didn't see the mullet, but anyway, black uniform. I mean,
Sick.
if I was Superman, that's what I would have started out with. All black everything, baby.
Joe, do you make,
Plus it's slimming.
if you're directing this film and Superman shows up and Batman sees him in the black, does Batman make a joke? Do you have Batman make a joke about,
Yes.
like, I could see you finally got the color scheme down there, you know?
Yeah. Obviously, it's not going to be like, I can see you finally got the color scheme down there, Superman. It's going to be more like,
I obviously saw you got the color scheme down there, Batman. Like, that's what it's going to sound like.
well, yeah, it's going to be a little more like a serious sentence, but still with the humor in there.
We'll see. Yeah, that'll be. Oh man, Joe.
No, hold on. Speculate. Why is his outfit black?
That's because I know. Again, this is from my very minimal knowledge of comics. When he has come back from the dead, it's all black. I don't know if it's like he's absorbing the sun energy from his suit or something, and it turns black, or somehow it turns black. I don't know. I don't think he swaps it out and he's like, I'm a different Superman now. Like,
either way, it's about time. Badass. I'm hoping red kryptonite's in this next one. Anywho,
I'm a big sucker, Joe, for having a fight like, for instance, like Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings, where you have your two armies fighting each other, your two sides, your protagonists and your antagonists. They're fighting, and the antagonists are starting to win, and then out of nowhere, and it's kind of like a Deus Ex Machina sometimes, but if it's used properly, it makes sense, and they set that one up well. With Gandalf and the Rohirrim, but I really want, more than anything, Joe, for like the Justice League movie to be going, and about one of them's about to die, like maybe Batman's about to get like that, like the killing shot on himself, and then just you see a hand out of nowhere just and catch the fist or whatever, and it's just Superman in a black outfit with a silver S, and he's just like, made it just in time kind of thing, like, oh, like, just even if it makes no sense.
And when he grabs the bad guy's wrist, it's that thud, the bass,
exactly,
just through your body.
And you just see, Joe's like, as much bass as, but like every time he blinks, or like, but But and then they slowly pan up from his hand, and it's him just standing there, and then they play like the Superman theme or whatever. I think that would be really, do something like that. Don't be
and
afraid
if it's
to make
rated R, I want to see Superman like grab somebody underneath their jaw and rip their head off, or just like rip his jaw off or something crazy,
I want to see that too, but they're not going to do it because then they lose a lot of their demographic. That's why Suicide Squad's PG-13, because they want to appeal to the broader audiences.
Yeah.
But it would be great, Joe. I'm with you there. I would love to see him just be like, you know what? I'm done being a nice guy. But he wouldn't do that to a living being because that's not Superman's style as much.
That's my style.
Batman, though, who knows anymore? That guy's a freaking murdering psychopath. After Batman vs. Superman, I'm like, why didn't he kill Joker in the Lamborghini? I don't know when this moment in the movie, universe is, but you think he would have just, come off the roof, looked inside with a gun, like a shotgun, and be like, boom, but, Joker problem taken care of.
Yeah, or you think when Batman. He's trailing him in his Batmobile, he just shoots a rocket at the Lambo.
or Deadshot even, it's like, you kill all these thugs, but you're like, I'll leave these very, very dangerous criminals completely alive. Will take them to prison. He's like, but I will kill these thugs in a brutal fashion. I'm gonna break that dude's neck into the floor. I'm gonna smash his neck into the floor.
Okay, all right, yeah,
that's what he does. But yeah, no, I'm excited for that. Do you think he shows up halfway through the movie, Joe, or do you have him show up at the very end of Justice League for the final fight of that movie with Steppenwolf or whoever? Do you have Superman show up at that last moment like I was talking about, or do you show the grave and he kind of bops out at one moment? He's like, I'm back! Because that's exactly how it would go. I don't know. Do you want more Superman, less Superman? We're going to have a lot more heroes in this one to deal with.
No, a little less Man of Steel. Maybe towards the end they do some sort of shot where maybe his mother, remind me of the name.
Martha, dude. It's always everyone's name is Martha.
I'm just kidding. No, so maybe do a screenshot. It's late in the evening. Sun is just peeking over the hills, setting, and it's during the big fight, or the Justice League is standing in the face of the evil, and they cut to a scene. It's the same evening, only in Kansas, and Martha's looking over the grave and dropping a flower or something. Then as she's walking away, dirt starts to crumble. Next thing you know, it's she turns around and she looks, and it's they don't show anything, they just show her with a look of awe, and then bass warble all over the place.
And she gets thrown backwards, just dirt
from the
everywhere.
Sonic boom.
Hits her head on a tombstone,
dead.
Paralyzed. Dead. Poor Martha.
Wayne, you killed Martha.
Yeah, you killed my mother.
But anyway,
that'd be great if.
And then so Superman in his black suit, shoo, gone. Arrives at the battle scene as the team is dusting themselves off, about to die. Ends it.
They're like, we're all about to die. Might as well take the dust off our clothes.
Well, you know what I mean? They just got knocked down real bad, and they're kind of sitting up. And
he's got to save Batman, or maybe you save Aquaman, because in the past they've kind of had a rivalry, so that might be a good place for them to start that rivalry. It's kind of him saving him, and he'd be like, I don't know who you are, and he's like, I don't need your help. And he'd be like, well, clearly you did, or something like that.
Or you be dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho, so there's some options there. Let's see what they do.
Knowing DC, they will just probably botch it. So I'm going to go in with no expectations and assume that Lex Luthor will show up in a power suit, Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor, and just be screaming.
I'm sorry, Jesse Eisenberg, but
don't be sorry, Joe. It's not your fault that he was a horrible choice for this film. He's not the worst actor. It's just a bad pick. It's nobody's fault except for everyone who decided to pick him. It's their fault.
Yep, and every time I see that scene where they show up at LexCorp and he's shooting hoops, I saw the interview where he's like, yeah, that took me 30 tries to make that shot and turn around. I was like, every time I watch it, I'm like, yeah, you suck at life.
And I heard that he was really nervous, and it was freaking him out because he just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
and it's really funny to me. Yeah. Which reminds me of Alien Resurrection or whatever, where Sigourney Weaver throws a basketball behind her because she's got the alien DNA, and it goes right in the hoop. Like she throws it just behind her, and it just goes perfectly in there. And people are joking like she made that on the first try, or if that was even real. And it's like, that'd be so great if Sigourney Weaver's like, I made that shot backwards. Not even, just one shot. Whatever. Not a big deal. I'm freaking Sigourney Weaver. I think it's Resurrection. I don't know. It's a weird film.
Yeah, it's one of the earlier ones when they're on the ship.
Anyway, Joe, we've just been cutting into DC. I want to get into one small little thing before we get into the questions and time killers and all that jazz. Titanfall 2 stuff. Preview here. We got a beta weekend coming up this weekend, which Joe and I might have a chance to play on maybe Sunday, Joe? I don't know. And then
maybe
the weekend.
Sunday evening.
Maybe. So check out our streams. There's a link down below to our Twitch accounts. But if not that weekend, the weekend after, and we'll be able to give more impressions about it then. But from the single player stuff, which I haven't really looked into as much, just because I kind of want it to be a surprise. What do you think about kind of like, we got grapple hooks, we got two Titans, Ion and Scorch, that we're going to be fighting with, and some other interesting abilities. Are you amped, Joe? Because I'm amped. I'm really amped.
Duh, I'm amped. We've already talked about this, and I the grapple hooks and the jumping, the new Titans, the multiple unlocks as far as more weapon choices, cooler weapon choices, a sword for one of the Titans. I mean, yeah, I'm all about it, pal. And from the gameplay that I have seen on YouTube, I know they had some special YouTubers go to a conference where they got to play for hours and record gameplay. From what I've seen, very smooth gameplay, just what we're used to with Titanfall, and it looks really good. Like, graphic quality was pretty epic, I thought, compared to Titanfall Part 1.
And then Part 2. This is Titanfall 2. One thing I watched the preview from the Easy Allies, which you should definitely check out. With
Were they at
Ben.
that?
They did, yes. Ben Moore and Michael Huber both went to this thing a while ago, and it was like, oh, this is so cool, because they sat down, talked about it, and intercut some of the gameplay. A few things they were saying: the grapple hook. It's not like it's not very easy. As easy to use as some other grapple hooks, where it's like you shoot it, it hits something, and then it takes a little while to kind of zip you up there. So it's a little more like maybe like a real grapple hook, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's not like instantaneous. I'm not like from me to the top of the building in a second.
Okay, but if we both get ejected out of our Titans and I see you across the way, can I point at you and grapple you and kick you?
You can, but if we're on the same team, I don't know if what will happen. I don't know if you can hit me. That'd be pretty cool if I was like, Joe, get over here, because what they were saying is it's really nice to use that against, because if you were out in the open in the old game against a Titan, you're just like almost screwed most of the time. I mean, you could kind of jump around a bit, but this is really nice to use if you're like, oh, I have to get over to a building kind of over there. I can kind of move out of the way before this thing destroys me.
Exactly.
Another thing, I love to see the health bars. That's a big thing. Sometimes you'll be shooting at especially, they had them on the Titans, but the pilots, they didn't. Now you have health bars on those and the grunts and stuff, so you can see how much you have to commit to killing somebody. Where I'm like, sweet, that's great, cool.
Yeah, so
I like that information.
I'm not gonna get him, I'll give up.
Yeah, but they were saying that the controls, they're like, it just feels right. They're like, I don't know what they did, but it all feels right. Yeah, and I was like,
the first one felt right.
Oh, first, exactly.
I remember
just do that,
we
but
said
more.
that Call of Duty could take some notes.
Sure, and I know that from Black Ops 3, you talked about this a little bit, and I've heard other people say this too, that like that one was like the closest thing to Titanfall as far as the
Black
mobility
Ops
goes.
3, I think they got it right there.
Pretty
it
close
still has
too.
a COD feeling, but it's much more fluid.
Sure, but it sounds like, and they said that there was a ton more stuff to unlock and do, which is a big thing for me.
Weapon
because,
choice
like,
was a big downer on the first one.
Yeah, like I was talking to Joe before this, is that like 20 hours into the game about, we kind of almost have everything, even attachments unlocked.
Yep.
And it was just kind of like, and the way to get someone was kind of stupid. It was like kill like, 40 grunts with this gun and then you get this. And it was like, okay, that's just like, that's not that great. So, and it seems like I'm hoping that there's more customizable options. I think there's going to be. And I think the new Titans, the varying classes of Titans is a really cool thing. So, yeah, really excited. I'm excited to report back on that after I get my hands on it this week, and then probably the week after, because, man, Titanfall 2 is the one game that will get me to stop playing Overwatch for a little bit. Like, I don't play Overwatch all the time, but it's the only shooter I can think of for me personally where I'm like, man, I'm gonna, like, let's get into that game. Also, they did mention that the single player, there won't be any on-rails moments or anything like that. They said that it's going to be just like Titanfall. So, like when you play Call of Duty, Joe, and you play the multiplayer or the single player sometimes, they put you in like certain missions that you could never do like in the multiplayer. They're like, that's never going to happen. It's like, I got to get from here to here, and there's this big open area to do so. And it's like you get freedom of movement and
so
stuff.
it's a little more open world single player.
Yeah. Well, not open world, just like open like level design.
Yeah, it is in. There's not like a specific path.
Sure, yeah.
So
open
it's
world
not
typically
just one tunnel or road going to the objective. It's a city, and you can pick whichever road you want to get to point B.
Yeah. Typically, just a little clarification. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is like open world.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was just saying it's in comparison.
Yes, for sure. It's not just like shoot down a hallway, which it might be for some of their levels, but it seems like there's still like there's you have options in Titanfall. That's what it's about. You can be running through buildings, you can scale them, you can run along the ground, you can hop into Titan, you can go all over the place. Seems pretty cool. So really excited about that. So we'll come back to that. But Joe, it is time to get into questions. So we got 2 good questions. Gosh, no. That's good stuff, Joe. We gotta still think of something for that. We gotta get if you guys know how to do more theme songs, I gotta talk to this is Daleb. We gotta talk. I forgot to mention him at the top. Anyway, Chris McKeague or Machine Soul, big fan of the show. I should say friend of the show. I can't speak for him if he's a big fan. Especially after this episode. After this episode, I don't know if he'll like me as much because I know he's seen Suicide Squad a bunch. And I'm glad, if you like it, like what you want to. It says, Atco Critical, do you think the gaming media would see No Man's Sky in a different light if Sony had marketed it differently? #Critical Podcast.
This one's for you, Jimmy. I don't even know what that is.
So, No Man's Sky, Joe, is this game that's got kind of procedurally generated planets. It's got over 18 quintillion planets, Joe. Basically, what you do is you are an explorer. You can get in a ship, and you can go land at a planet. You can mine for resources. You can name various animals you see there. You can name like planets and stuff, and you just kind of go from place to place, and you're trying to get to the center of the universe, or you can just kind of go from planet to planet, just like get more resources, buy better like guns or mining equipment or better ships and stuff like that. From the trailer I just watched for the launch, it makes the game seem really action-packed, but this game, Joe, is much more kind of relaxing. It's kind of just like you just kind of there can be moments of action, if you will, but it's apparently pretty bad, and the rest of it's just kind of like, I'm just kind of hanging out, I'm gonna fly here, do this, do that, nothing too crazy. But I think if Sony had marketed it that way, which isn't as sexy or as flashy, I think it wouldn't be getting as negative as far as the feedback goes, because right now, Joe, it's been kind of it's been all over the place as far as reviews go. Some people just absolutely love it. Some people are like, this isn't the game that they told me I was going to have. It's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going, like, the game is potentially never ending. So some people love that. They love to just explore forever. Some people don't, and there's only so much you can see of like the stuff they've already made, like the guns. And so there's only so many guns or mining equipments or ships that you can get. But like every planet, you could see a different version of this little critter. It might be bigger this time. It might be smaller. It might have many, many arms. It might not have as many arms, or it'll look completely different. It's just all this stuff. But I think if Sony would have been more forefront and said, like, this is not an action game. This is not like a crazy mining game like Minecraft or something. It's like, it's just a game that has a lot of cool things working together, but it's much more relaxing and not so like insanely intense as they kind of made it seem like it was going to be.
Okay.
So it's kind of unfortunate. So that's my answer to that. And our second question, and Joe, this is going to get a little tricky. I had to look this up, but Anna, another fan of the show. By the way, Anna, thank you. She's been doing some really great fan art for us. That's super good from all the streams I've been doing.
Oh, yeah?
I got one
Sweet.
from Just Cause 3. Or 2 from Just Cause 3, and then she did one for Life is Strange, which I just wrapped up the other night. We'll get to that.
Sweet.
It says, Atco Critical, #Critical Podcast. If you were to colonize any planet in the solar system, which one would it be? How would you run it? And Mars is not... You can't pick Mars.
What? It's my favorite one.
Yeah, it's my favorite one, too.
Damn it.
I thought... so I looked into this, and I'm going to pick Saturn. And the reason why...
Because you
none
got
of these
them
planets
rings,
are...
man.
You got them rings. No, the reason why I picked Saturn is most of these other planets are like kind of gaseous, or they're just like you couldn't live on them anytime ever. So what I would do, Joe, is because Saturn, which by the way, fun fact, it is the root word of the English word Saturday. Saturn. Look at that.
Well,
Another reason to
who
love
doesn't
Saturn.
love Saturdays, you know? Working for
but
the
another
weekend,
thing,
baby.
Saturn is comprised of, I think it was primarily hydrogen and helium.
So you talk really high-pitched all the time? Hi, guys.
Yeah,
my name is Jimmy.
Yeah, that's how I normally sound. But I think that's what it was. What I was thinking is like you can make some like floating structures or kind of like space stations that could use the fuel of those various things. You could take in that fuel, the hydrogen, the helium or whatever, and that would be what sustains them in their flight or whatnot. So they could be like infinitely sustained around them. Yeah. The only problem with that, Joe, is that there are like some really crazy winds that I guess Saturn has, like 1,000-mile-per-hour winds and stuff. Like it gets pretty nuts.
Yeah, so you wouldn't survive.
Yeah, so that's probably what I'd do. How I would rule it, very scared. If I was the guy in charge, I'd be like, we would check all the instruments constantly. Like I'd be like, all right, everybody, you got to stay at your stations. Like
24-hour shift.
Yeah,
to be followed by another 24-hour shift.
All the shifts. Yeah, no, definitely. But anyway, Joe, so I'm not gonna. You don't have to like. You can pick a planet. You don't have to specify exactly how because it's difficult. But what planet would you choose? Right. Remember that Pluto. Unfortunately, I think technically it's still not a planet, even though I wanted it to pick that one. I was like, Pluto.
Okay, so like, Pluto is officially no longer a planet.
I don't believe so.
I'm so depressed.
Joe's just like super bummed out.
Well, because you know which one I was going to pick, don't you? It was Pluto.
It's a dwarf planet.
And is it smaller than our moon? It
is smaller than the Earth's moon. Yes.
Wow. Okay, so never mind. I was total. Oh, is there another frozen planet? Is Neptune is all gas. Venus is all gas, right?
I'm pretty sure we're asking the wrong people for this.
I'm a nuclear physicist.
Sure.
I know these things.
I'm looking into it.
I work on string theory all the time.
Apparently, Venus is hotter than Mercury, but Mercury is closer to the sun. Huh.
Just because of its makeup, huh? That's crazy, isn't it?
I guess so. But Mercury
space is like mind-blowing. This is where I start throwing out the word Inception and throwing my hands up.
The trick with Mercury, Joe, is it has no atmosphere, so if you tried to, it'd be like our moon. So if like it's like been riddled with other like meteors and stuff, like you wouldn't have any protection. So if you're just like, yeah, we colonized Mercury somehow, and just like bam, just a rock just destroys you. But yeah, anyway, keep going, Joe. Keep going. Just remember, Venus' atmosphere is toxic, and the pressure would probably kill you. So keep that in mind.
Anywho.
So
Krypton. Is Krypton in there?
Krypton is not. Nope, it's not.
Because I would totally go back to my home planet. That place is
if my kid
fleek.
If I have a child one day and if I get like a call from the teacher and they're like, he's very adamant that Krypton is within our solar system, I'd be like, oh, that's so sweet. I have to teach him that it's not in this galaxy, but it's, that's really sweet that he wanted Krypton to be there. But he's like, but it got destroyed. So like, I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh.
Man. Like I said, man, when I have kids, the first thing I'm going to do when they're capable to comprehend it, Smallville.
I was talking to my buddy Levi about that tonight. I was like, don't tell Joe you're a big Smallville fan. Big fan of Lex Luthor in that show too. My buddy Levi.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Joe, pick a planet.
Levi, he's a good guy.
Pick a planet. And I'll tell you how you.
Dude, just find me one with that's cold, and let's just call it a giant ski resort. All right, that's all I want. So as far as I'm concerned, Pluto is back on the table, and it's just my own private ski resort. All right,
we'll take it. That sounds good to me.
I'm all about the skiing there, Anna.
How about Neptune? It's far out and it's very cold, but
there we go.
The only problem is sometimes you'd have to. The only problem, Joe, is that it has crazy fast winds.
Yeah, man, I ski in winds all the time.
Sometimes faster than the speed of sound.
Okay, I quit.
Would you hear the wind coming? I guess not.
Because the sound.
That's probably scientifically incorrect on a lot of levels. It's times like this that my being a scientist in biology, like I am, does not help as far as being Joe was talking about, like an astrophysicist or something like that.
Let's just remember you're in biology, not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, that does it for questions this week.
Good one, Anna.
So Joe, he's already focused in on something else because this is what Joe does to me. Joe, focus. You pause your MXGP2.
I am not playing that. I might be getting set up. All right.
If I get the chance to replace you, Joe, I'm going to think back to this moment and I will take it. I'll take it in a heartbeat. I'll be like, yes, no.
Continue on.
What's the name of the next segment? I forget. What is it?
Oh, yeah. Questions.
Oh,
no.
Just so you guys know, he's staring at me as he gets really close to the mic, and then he doesn't say a word. It's very strange.
Timekillers.
I feel like one of these weeks you're gonna go back to your Timekillers.
I was thinking about it. That's why I paused and stared.
That's why you stared.
I was trying to get the vibe off you to see which way you want me to go with it.
So good. Anyway, yes, it is time for Timekillers. If you don't know what Timekillers is, it's the things that Joe and I have been watching, the games we've been playing, the cookbooks we've been reading. I just really wanted to feel like I paged through a cookbook this week and I got real hungry.
Good stuff. Huh? She uses a lot of butter.
Mrs. Butterworth?
No, Paula Deen, man.
Oh, Paula Dean's trying to put us all on the ground, man. She's
read her cookbooks.
Here's more butter.
They're just as racist as her TV show.
Here we go. So, Joe, for Timekillers, what you been watching and reading?
As I said, Paula Deen cookbooks. No,
Paula Deen. He's like, I've been watching Paula Deen, reading Paula Deen.
I just ordered her pot and pan kit off eBay.
Collection? Nice, dude. It's hers. It's legitimately hers. Like,
she made it herself.
Yeah, cast iron forge.
God, I've got so many jokes on the table, but they would get us in trouble. Anywho, Paula Deen, good lady. Anywho,
big fan of the show, just like Jack Hanna. Oh my gosh.
So, continuing on MXGP2. I am on the season 6 finale of Game of Thrones, so I'm all cut up, and daggone bag on good show. I am currently in the midst of getting into rewatching Batman vs Superman, the Ultimate Edition, just because it's been a while and I kind of wanted to rewatch it and refresh my thoughts on it, and yeah, so I'm going to continue doing that, and other than that, not much new on the horizon. Super busy. Weddings and stuff for friends and whatnot.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Good thing you specified for friends, because it'd be pretty great if people are like, is Joe getting married to multiple people? And you're like, yeah, I decided to do them all in one summer. Just get my 3 weddings out of the way.
Yeah. Every wife insanely gorgeous.
It gets less fun as it goes on, though, because like the relatives would show up for the third one. They're like, "What the heck is he doing?"
Yeah. Oh, there's something else I was gonna say. I'm forgetting now. Oh, getting a new apartment this week. Moving up in the world to my penthouse. Not really, but
sure.
Getting a new apartment. Sign the lease on Friday the 19th here, and get the move in the following week. And I'm excited for that. It's a nice place, so. A little bit bigger, a little bit better, brand new. So yeah. I'll invite you over for the apartment warming party.
Sounds good. If this show does well enough, we'll each get our own penthouse. It'll be great. Share it with your friends.
Conjoin.
Anyway,
we'll share a wall.
My turn. I'm going. I just finished up. I'm going now.
Go.
I'm done waiting for you. Timekillers doesn't involve your life plans. Oh my god, I feel like I paid my taxes this week.
I thought the people would want to know and maybe give me a little golf clap, like, good for you, Joe.
Yeah, good for him.
Thanks, guys.
Anyway,
Jeez, old cripes OP day.
I'm happy for you. I'm excited to see
Thanks,
it.
Jimmy.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. I wish you lived closer. That's just a
too.
general statement. It's one of these days I'll get you to move too closer to me. Anyway, so for my Timekillers, I finished up Life is Strange on Twitch the other night. It was great. If you want to watch me make some interesting choices, and you haven't played that game, it is a lot of fun. So check that out on the Twitch archive. I'm gonna try to get that on YouTube. I tried doing that a while ago, and it just like failed to work like twice. So I'll try to do it again and see if we can get it to go. I just rewatched Thor: The Dark World the other night. Not as bad as I remember. I'd probably give it like a 7.5 or something. The stuff on Earth, I think I kind of want to edit that movie and just take that stuff out, because the rest of it, I'm like, this is pretty dang good.
Agreed.
Loki, Tom Hiddleston, that just, man, dang, so good. Like, that whole, his interchange between him and his brother and the motivations and stuff, they pretty good.
What do you think about Tom Hiddleston dating Taylor Swift?
Sorry,
anyway,
I also watched Guardians of the Galaxy recently for that comparison video, which still a great movie. I still chuckle at the parts that are like, usually when you see a movie a few times and you see like the jokes again, I'm like, oh, here comes this joke, but I was like so excited for it. And the scene that they show in the trailer, and it still gets me amped, Joe, is they're in the prison and they get Rocket a gun and he's on Groot's shoulder and it gets like all quiet. He's like, oh, yeah. And he just starts shooting and they're both just yelling, and I was like, that scene is so good. Like, I love it. I love it so much.
That movie overall was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Oh man, it's like an 8 or a 9.
What's his name? Good. Lead guy?
Peter Quill, Star-Lord, Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Probably the only good movie I've seen him in.
Well, we've only really seen him in like 2 big movies so far. So.
Jurassic World. What's he gonna be in? He's gonna be in this new one coming up.
Oh, Magnificent Seven. Yeah. We should see that, Joe.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That looked pretty good in the previews I saw. But Jurassic World, he fell flat for me. I didn't. Yeah. Whatever. But that was a good movie. Continue on. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that does it for our little segment there, known as Timekillers.
You got another question for me? Platypus.
No, I don't. What?
Oh, I thought maybe you'd come up with another interesting animal fact for me.
No, I only have the one. I'm only doing the one.
Come on, we should do multiples.
Also, if you guys have any more questions for us, because Joe's now he's all amped up playing his game. He's not barely even focusing in.
I am focusing. I am. Come on, man.
I asked for like 2 hours a week of his undivided attention. I just stare off into space in a tear.
Speaking of, just looking at the clock here, this is one of our longest podcasts ever.
I know. Like earlier on when I was trying to wrap up Suicide Squad stuff, and you're like, "Wait a sec, Jimmy, let's get into what you liked about it." I was like, "Ah, crap!" Like,
well, you know what? I thought about it, and I was like, "People are gonna be mad if we don't cover all the bases. If Jimmy doesn't have enough input, they're gonna be pissed."
Sure. Well, that's why they gotta watch a review. That's why they don't know my score yet. It could be anything.
You guys will never guess what he scored it at. If you could have seen my face when he gave me the number on his hands, I was like, "What?" So you gotta check it out.
Anyway, well, that brings us to the end of the show. But if you do have any questions for us or want to share with us your time killers, you could just post those down in the comments below. But if you want to ask us a specific question for the podcast, feel free to tweet at myself, at GoCritical, capital G, capital C, or tweet at Joe with
at lever_627.
That's very good. I saw you looking at your phone. I don't know if you were looking it up.
No, I was reading something. Anywhu, yes, that's lever just like beaver, only with an L.
I want more questions, guys. So like right after you hear this one, if you're on Twitter and you are interested in that kind of thing, any time of the week, any time of day or whatever, just tweet them at us, because we want to hear from you. If it's anything, it could be something about the movies, the video games, stuff we talk about.
Or
it could be a question like that.
Ideas for our next topics.
Oh, for sure. If you guys want to see us cover something, you can even just put a question mark behind it, but probably try to make it a question, because it's like, I want to see you cover the Magnificent Seven. Like, like, yes. But, if it's something kind of even more simple, if it's more about like Joe or myself in our just regular lives, we could talk about that too. But I think it's more fun to kind of get into like a topic if it's like, oh, who should play X in this next movie or whatever, or Y or Z. I think that'd be kind of fun. So please feel free to do that. Also, as I mentioned before, check out our latest review, Suicide Squad. Should be up on the channel. Also, the comparison video between the Suicide Squad and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Shouldn't compare everything. Obviously, they're completely different teams, different like universe and all that. But there's a lot of overlap, and it's not about saying which one was necessarily better. It's just like a lot of things that they share that are in common that I thought was like, that's kind of interesting. That's a lot like that.
Yeah, trends for that style of movie.
I'd love to talk to the director of Guardians, James Gunn, about this Suicide Squad and see, just like be like, so what did you think about it? Like, was he like, oh, this is cool, or he'd be like, oh, I thought about this or that, and maybe under Marvel contract, he's like, I have to say DC things are horrible. Like, he's like, I have to, otherwise Mickey will come in here and freaking beat me with a hammer.
Sure.
But yeah, let's see. Follow us if you haven't already. Like, share, subscribe, share it with a friend. That's the big thing. And feel free to, if you want to, you can help support the show with the PayPal down below, because we were trying to get a little bit of money together, try to get some better tech for Joseph and myself. Maybe one day you'll even be able to see us on one of these things. It depends on what you guys want. We need your feedback. So, yeah, I mean, you could go up to the nearest rooftop and yell out about our podcast, but I don't think that'd be very efficient. But if you want to share it with a buddy, that'd be great,
Jimmy,
if they're into this type of thing.
So, in conclusion, I want to close this one out. Quick question first. Who are our followers called? The Legion?
Yeah, just kind of a name. And then we're calling them, like, if you join it, you're a Legionnaire. I don't know.
That's good.
Someone said that last night in the stream, and I was like, ah.
So are we ready to close this sucker out?
I'm just trying to think of anything else. I say, yeah, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Follow us there. We're going to try to get on iTunes and Google Play soon. I'll try to figure it out. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's been difficult.
Just check us out on Twitch, too. We love having you guys come hang out. A little bit of banter back and forth between the community. We love that. So,
yeah, stop by anytime. We're streaming most weeknights, but check us on Twitter so you know for sure. One day, like I said, maybe this fall, Joe, you and I can hammer out more of like a kind of a set schedule, so it's because it might be easier when we're not like doing a bunch of stuff. But yeah, for the last thing I'll say, I'll just be love and hugs, adapt and overcome, people.
Yeah.
Joe, all you.
Peace out to the best Legion on YouTube. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Peace out.